everyone to the Marquette City Commission agenda meeting Tuesday, May 28, 2013. Meeting called to order at 7 p.m. Would you please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag? I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Benzie? Here. Commissioner Coyne?
Here.
Commissioner Ryan?
Here.
Commissioner Schneider?
Here.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Nemi?
Here.
Mayor DePietro?
Here. Show that all commissioners are present for roll call. Commissioners, any note of agenda changes? Commissioner Nemi.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to move item 15 and item 16 to the consent agenda. Item 15 is a routine item we do each year. 16 is a bid that is being awarded to the low bidder. And I'd also like to note that on consent agenda, item G, the ordinance it's stated as repeal, but we are actually going to amend sections 2-501 and 2-502. We're not going to repeal them. They're going to be amended. So there's that clarification on that item.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Coyne? Anything further, Commissioner
Nothing
Nemi?
further, Your Honor.
Anything further, Commissioner Coyne? Okay. Any other commissioner for agenda changes? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval of the agenda as presented? Commissioner Stone?
Your Honor, I think there has to be a motion to approve these changes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And a second, I'm sorry, a vote on the motion that was already made.
Yeah.
Okay. All in favor on the motion by Commissioner Nemi and seconded by Commissioner Coyne, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. And Commissioner Coyne?
I move we adopt the agenda.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Approval of the agenda as presented. Yeah.
It's just done.
Okay. 7-0. Announcements at this time. I got some openings here for volunteer committees and boards. Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, 3 openings. Harbor Advisory Committee, 1 opening. Housing Commission, 1 opening. Local Officers Compensation Commission, 3 openings. Planning Commission, 2 openings. Regional Recreation Authority Business Plan Ad Hoc Committee, 1 alternate opening. Sister City Advisory Committee, 3 openings. Sustainable Community Ad Hoc Committee, 1 DNR representative. Parks and Recreation, there's 2 openings. And Traffic Parking Advisory Committee, 3 openings. Thank you. With that, we'll move to public hearing, fiscal year 2013-2014 budget and General Appropriation Act. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Background. The City Commission held budget hearings on April 30th, May 1, 2, and 7, 2013. Tonight, a public hearing is scheduled to receive public comment on the proposed 2013-14 budget. Following this input, the Commission should consider any changes it wishes to make to the budget. Fiscal effect. A balanced budget has been presented. Recommendation, following the public hearing, adopt the fiscal year 2013-14 budget and General Appropriations Act. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Anyone wishing to address the Commission for the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget and General Appropriation Act? Anyone wishing to address the Commission on agenda number 1? Come on up to this podium here. Please state your name and physical address, please.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Andery, 80 Edgewood Drive in Harvey, Michigan. Ladies and gentlemen of the Commission, thank you. Congratulations on a budget that works, that's balanced, and that has a surplus. I'd like you to please consider reasonable discounts for youth activities, youth recreation activities. I'm here on behalf of Marquette Little League, and I can't speak for any of the other youth organizations, but I know I'll be working with Mr. Vida's office and Carl Zuger, probably a number of the department heads as well, to come together with a formula to make it affordable for everybody to play, and also make it part of the cost recovery program that's been usable and functional within the city. So that's all I have. I understand that the budget will be, this will be a retroactive is what we'll be seeking. A retroactive discount for some of the user fees is what will be coming back to you hopefully within the next few weeks. So, thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address commission at this time on agenda number 1? Anyone else wishing to address commission at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of the public hearing and turn it over to commissioners. Commissioners, is there a motion on agenda 1 as presented? Commissioner Ryan.
Well, I'd like to have some further discussion. If I could move that we amend the rules.
Okay.
Suspend the rules.
I'll suspend the rules if... Right. Okay.
I'll second the motion.
There's a motion by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Namey. All in favor, say aye.
Yes.
Motion passed 7-0.
I would like to further address this issue that was addressed by the one speaker tonight. This is something I brought up during the budget discussions, and I am concerned. I'm not sure where we're going. You know, there's a promise that something may occur, but I really think we have to take a different look at how we're dealing with these organizations like Superior Land Soccer and Marquette Little League. You know, these organizations are providing youth activities in our community. You know, we live in a time when obesity, for example, is a major crisis, not just among adults, but kids as well. We have issues with kids, you know, getting involved in problems, and here we have programs that take kids off the streets and get them involved in positive activity. And I'm not certain when it came about that we decided we had to break even with these programs. It seems to have only occurred in the past couple of years. You know, originally, well, I'm not sure what originally, but in the years from 2009 to 2011, the per team fees increased from $50 to $55 to $60. And now we're proposing an increase to $115, you know, which is, to my mind, quite substantial. Information that was provided to us last year said that based on a survey they had done, most cities don't charge fees for teams providing these kinds of activities. The teams do get involved in some of the maintenance and projects, but they don't charge them. You know, we're charging them, and I think we should be encouraging organizations like this and not putting roadblocks in their path. This is a significant increase. I'm not sure where to go with this because I know there have been some discussions with the administration, and the manager did promise that we would have some kind of something to work with on this, which we don't now have. So, you know, we're being asked to approve this budget without knowing what that is and what that's going to mean. So is there a possibility I could find out more of where that may be going?
City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Commissioner. We have planned for the next City Commission meeting, I believe, draft ordinance that should address this. And based on the feedback we got from the Commission during the working sessions, it should address discounting, providing discounts for different user groups for different purposes the Commission might see fit. And so hopefully that'll be on the next Commission agenda. As far as the fees go, with the Little League, we'll be sitting down and working with them to determine exactly what it is that they're looking for, either a bottom line discount number or percentage discount. We'll be prepared to come back and discuss that with the Commission next time. And of course, at that time, we'll provide a full discussion of what the impacts might be on the budget we're taking a look at this evening. So
I guess
if there's any other discussion, I'd be glad to ask our community service director to speak to the fee strategy. But at this point, we're working with groups as they come forward, and we should have an ordinance for consideration by the commission next meeting.
I guess I'm concerned about the word discount. You know, it's as though we somehow have to charge these groups this fee. I always felt that this was a partnership between the city of Marquette and these groups. Now, these are all volunteer organizations. Nobody gets paid. The only way they derive revenue is from charging the kids who play and fundraising. And much of their fundraising has gone back into those facilities. And obviously soccer is a key example. The Kaufman Complex soccer facility was built by the Superior Land Soccer Association, primarily. There was some additional help from the city, but most of it was done by them. So they have put tremendous amounts of money into this, and if discount is the only way we can look at it, if it works, then fine. But I just don't understand why we feel we have to pay for these programs with fees from these organizations. We don't charge people admissions to our parks. We spend a lot of money. I don't think we should charge admission to our parks, but they're used by a lot of people. We don't talk about discounts there. Swimming, people use our beaches. We spend $100,000 on swimming safety. I think it's important we do those things, but we don't charge people at the beach for using the beach. So I'm not quite sure why we have to be charging these kids that want to play soccer and Little League baseball. If we drive the prices up too high, we're just going to put them out of business and put the kids back on the streets. So that's my concern. Unless somebody is willing to take it in a different direction, and I don't know what kind of feeling the rest of the commission has, but if the manager says we have an answer, I guess I'll have to take that on face value. But my philosophy is this should be a partnership with the city, and we shouldn't be trying to recoup all of our costs for these fields.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Nemi, anything? Commissioner Coyne?
Thank you. I'd like to just comment. At the last meeting, we discussed why we want to redo the fees, whether you call it a discount or a fair and appropriate fee. There are costs related to having these programs, and this is the 11th budget I've sat through, and it's the 11th time we've had this discussion. And what prompted this new plan was it always comes down to the budget, and we have a fee. This is how much the costs are, which in the budget process, that's everything that we do. We know how much it costs, and I think you make very valid points. The point being that what happens is, let's take the $115, which is very high and undoable. And then the commission, at least 10 times, has just taken a number out of the air. No rational, 80 or 75. There's no rational thought given to it. And what we've asked in this instance, Little League, to say is, what is a reasonable and fair cost, and then we can try to work that into an ordinance, so we don't have to go through this every single year with having this, if you want, outrageous fee, but rather a fee that's fair and equitable to all three sports, which seems like a reasonable thing to do, and that's what we've asked the city manager to do. And it will be based on their input, not just voodoo out of the air picking a number, which doesn't do anything for the budget, for our budget, or theirs. So I think this is a reasonable solution to try to get away from this yearly hassle that we go through and making three sports very unhappy and threatened. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne. Any other commissioner? Seeing none. Commissioner Ryan?
Just one quick point which I didn't make, and that is we spend nothing for youth recreation in the city of Marquette. I mean, we don't have any programs. these programs, many communities have programs. They have to go out and put them on themselves, especially in larger cities. But we don't have any. These programs are all put on by volunteer organizations, and our part of the partnership is providing the place where they can play. And that's kind of the way I look at it, so I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Commissioner Coyne.
Well, I'd like to go ahead and move that we adopt the fiscal year 2013-2014 Budget and General Appropriation Act.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse.
Second the motion.
Thank you. It is moved and seconded to approve agenda number 1, fiscal year 2013-2014 budget and general appropriation act as presented. With that, Commissioners, I'm going to ask for a vote.
Discussion. It's under
Is there
discussion.
discussion on this?
And Commissioner Coyne made the motion,
Yes.
so he gets to.
Seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse. Commissioner Benzie? Okay,
I think
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Commissioner Coyne gets. Commissioner Coyne
Okay.
made the motion. He
Commissioner
gets to
Coyne.
speak first.
Thank you. Simply comment that this budget process is just not something that appears. We've spent 4 or 5 sessions working on this, usually half a day or longer sometimes, and it was a very excellent process. The staff was excellent. The presentations were outstanding, and it's a balanced budget, and no taxes were raised, no bonds were floated. So I think it's a good budget.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Well, I can only echo that by saying I think the paper tonight talked about 55 hours devoted by the commission to the budget, and that certainly seems like it, and certainly a huge amount of staff time. Very complicated procedure, very difficult and demanding process, very open, very transparent. And it's a good document. It's going to carry us through the year, and I think that some of the things that have been offered by the charter, the new charter, into how we manage money in terms of ordinances to make them more easy, I guess, to effectively use will play out very effectively in the long term. And we'll see that when we have an opportunity for the ordinance coming forward on athletic teams and how that cost share occurs. So very happy to support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Benzie?
Well, I agree. I think it was a great process. Certainly a lot of time was spent on the budget. I will support the budget. I think it's important to do so to pay the bills, to pay people on time. But I do have two parts that I would like to note for the record that I do not support in the budget. And I would just like to make those known now. One is the extra position in the manager's office. And the reason given to us was that the city charter places a lot of new demands on city staff. One of the things in the charter was the evaluations for the city manager and city attorney. Those are being done by committee. The other thing that was noted, strategic planning, that's also being done by committee. That will be a group process, certainly not something that's going to be done by staff. The economic development plan is currently underway. That was new to the city charter, which leaves an ethics ordinance, which, that's something I think we can come up with relatively quickly and easily. Furthermore, during the budget session, I asked what the 2 equivalent FTEs were doing in the arts and culture department now that the gift shop is closed. A lot of the programming is left, and I didn't get an answer. And as we look at where the arts and culture department is headed in the next year or two, and what those positions are doing now, if we possibly could use some of those employees, I would have liked some more creative thinking that way. I think right now there's some space there, and certainly the public is aware of it, and that was something I wanted an answer on. Third, I did attend a community meeting that discussed the school liaison police officer recently, and it got brought to the attention that the schools are going to be asked to participate and give more money. And one, this is not a school employee. This is a city employee. 2, I think this is extremely, extremely valuable. And I would rather have that position fully funded and secure year to year rather than another position for PR in the manager's office. I can't go along with that. Second is a $25,000 incentive pay. And simply put, we did not receive a plan. This was a line item. And it's very different to do incentive pay in the public sector than it is private. I think what you run into is, do the employees and department heads even want this? And why is this program being developed? We didn't get answers on that. Who's going to implement this? Are department heads going to be determining who gets the pay? Is this the city manager that doesn't work with these people? I think anyone that works for the public is intrinsically motivated. They're not motivated by money. None of us that work in the public work for money. We work because we believe in the job we do. And to me, this is an idea. There's no plan. This is not something I'm willing to put my name behind financially unless there is a plan. And I don't believe this is a one-year program. So unless this is a multi-year program, unless there is a plan, unless there's buy-in from the entire city, I think what it's going to do is it has the potential to lower workplace morale, and I don't stand behind it. So if I could just have the clerk note my opinion on those for the record. And again, I will support the budget. It's balanced, and I otherwise concur with it. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Benzie. Commissioner Schneider.
Sure, thank you, Mayor. I definitely want to commend staff. The Herculean task of putting this together is incredible. This is my third budget session, and I think this one, even though it went significantly longer than the others, I think that it actually went extremely well. I want to thank the commissioners for the discussion on it, as well as the staff for the ability to actually put it together. I think it's a really good budget. I think it's balanced fairly. I think it was put together expertly. But in thinking about it, I can't support it. And it's not because of anything that staff has done, but it's of our priorities as a community. And oftentimes these things come up as juxtaposition. If you look at any one issue, it doesn't seem to stand out. But we sat here and argued or discussed cordially for almost an hour over $5,000 that we were going to pay to put on some music. The next day, we didn't even flinch at a $400,000 loss to support Lakeview Arena. And that viscerally disturbs me. Not because I have anything against hockey or figure skating or any of that. I think that it's really important that we have youth sports, and I think that to some degree we need to fund those things. But when we're looking at arts versus sports and what the long-term economic impact is in our community, arts is actually a revenue generator. It's a job creator. It's something that really gives back long-term. Hockey is an incredible thing. Sports are an incredible thing, but it is not something that really creates jobs in the community that keep kids here. We all want our kids to be able to grow up and stay in this town, and if we're going to do that, we need jobs. And I think that putting that much money into something on an ideological level is just not quite right. The other reason which is less important, that I don't want to support the budget for, is because we're spending over $5 million on streets. Our streets need repair. I get that. But for the 3 years that I've served on the commission, I've talked extensively, not that anybody's really agreed with me, about our need to start focusing on alternative transportation. We've received numerous awards for being a walkable city. We received a lot of them for being a bikeable city, for having a lot of access to things. But we're still so absolutely dependent on cars. We put such a small amount into figuring out how to live differently, and it's frustrating to see $5 million, most of that to pay off bonds, going into streets, and I don't think that that's right either. So just on a pure ideological level, I have to turn this down, and it's definitely not because of staff's ability. I think staff has done a great job putting together a good budget based on what the commission has asked you for. But I guess I'm going to be the one voice saying, I don't think our priorities are quite in the right place.
Thank you. Commissioner Namey.
Thank you, Your Honor.
I'm sorry, just a minute.
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan.
That's okay.
You can go first, that's fine.
Okay.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. I think it's a good budget. I think we had great discussions among ourselves and with the staff. The staff answered pretty much all of our questions, perhaps not entirely, but sometime throughout the year the answers will come forth if they haven't already. There's many changes I could make to the budget if I was the one to decide alone on how the budget was to be, but that's not the way it's done. We do this as a collective process, and so I will support the budget, and I won't decry any changes that I desired that haven't been made. But there is one, and I think Commissioner Schneider touched on it, and I made the motion to take the $5,500 out the arts and culture budget, and I've thought about that a lot. I think probably it was a precipitous motion on my part. I think it was engendered partly by the fact that we just didn't have a lot of information on the program, and I had some questions on it, and I think some of the concerns I had have been answered. I would like to request that I'd like to move that we amend our motion adopting the budget to restore the $5,500 to the arts and culture budget, and perhaps maybe Commissioner Schneider would second that amendment. So that's the only change I'd like to see to the budget, but I support it. I commend staff, commend my fellow commissioners on the budget process and the document we have.
Is there a second to the motion?
I'll second that, so long as the city attorney does not have a problem with me seconding an amendment to a motion that I've already stated I will vote down.
City
No,
Attorney?
you can second the motion.
I will second that.
Okay, thank you.
And also vote for the motion.
There's a motion by Commissioner Nemi, seconded by Commissioner Schneider, to add $5,500 back to the arts and culture.
Your Honor, just for the record, what's under discussion now is the motion to amend.
There's a motion to amend by Commissioner Nemi, seconded by Commissioner Schneider. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Well, how about some discussion?
Okay,
I think we all just voted.
Well, no.
yeah. Commissioner
It's open
Nemi?
to discussion now.
Yeah, I just the only thing I can add, I guess, is I don't feel competent to insert my judgment into the considered opinions of the Arts and Culture Committee. We asked this committee to advise us. They advised us through the department, and I'm willing to stand by that advice and restore that funding. I think it would be wise for us to do that. Arts and culture in the city are an amazing thing. I had a chance to attend the award ceremony, and we all take great pride in the arts program we have, and I think we ought to support it. And I think $5,500 isn't a huge amount. I'm not necessarily going to draw the comparison that Jason did, but there are, I think we can afford it within our budget. We have a balanced budget without it, and we had a surplus budget without it, and so restoring it certainly is not going to imperil us in any fiscal way.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
What he said.
Okay, Commissioner Ryan?
Nothing. No.
Commissioner Stonos?
I believe that we left the 5,000 in the budget, but that what we removed was only the money for the concert series, which I thought was not that much. I thought it was maybe 1,000, 2,000? Was it 6,500? 5,500. Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Coyne?
Well, I will support the motion. I'm greatly relieved that Commissioner Nemi didn't include striking $5 million so we wouldn't fix the roads, because I definitely would. That's a little extreme to go that way, but thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
Just think if we put $5 million into alternative transportation.
All the people with cars would be very unhappy.
City, any other commissioner?
Not on this. I want to get my chance when we get back to the real.
Okay. Motion by Commissioner Nemi, seconded by City Attorney.
I just was looking for clarification, Your Honor. Is it motion to amend the budget to restore $5,000 to the arts and culture portion of the budget? Is that what it is?
That's correct. Amend the motion adopting the budget to include that in the motion adopting.
But it's
5,500.
5,500 to the
The
arts
arts and
and
culture budget.
Okay.
They know where to put it.
That'll be, you can do this by majority vote, but when you come to voting on the motion to approve the budget as a whole, it'll have to be a roll call vote.
Okay. City Clerk, did you want to read that amendment back before we vote on it?
As the attorney said, moved by Commissioner Nemi to restore $5,500 to the arts and culture funding, supported by Commissioner Schneider.
Sounds good.
That's appropriate.
Okay. With that, I'll ask the question. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed?
Opposed?
Okay, that passes 6-1, showing that Commissioner Benzie voted no. With that, Commissioner Ryan?
I'd like to make some comments on the general budget. I think voting on a budget is one of the more difficult things we have to do during a year, because as Commissioner Nemi pointed out, there are all things in the budget some of us don't like, but you have to somehow come up with a plan that a majority will support and buy into. So I will support it, but I think it's important to point out a couple of things and maybe some of my concerns. In a sense, I was disappointed, and that's not a reflection on anybody. But this year we had Marquette General come in as a major taxpayer. We have over $1 million in new property tax revenue, not just from Marquette General, but most of it from them. I think it was a 13% increase in property tax revenues. And I thought, well, we're going to have opportunity to do some different things, pay off some debt, or maybe attack some old roads that haven't been fixed, or take on some exciting new projects. And frankly, we haven't. And one of the concerning parts is, we've needed that money to balance the budget. And of course, the taxes won't be going up by $1 million next year. So, we've got to be very careful. I'm not quite willing to buy into this euphoria. Marquette is doing very well, especially compared to other communities, but, we still have to be careful. So I have some concerns about adding the additional person to the staff. I have some concerns about the performance bonuses, the exact concerns that Commissioner Benzie addressed, particularly what this can do to morale, introducing a program like this. In fairness, I have to point out that we are doing some things, except they're not sexy. We've agreed to do an $80,000 study of the ORDOC, which we all agreed is important. We've pretty well found out that we're not going to be able to do much with the ORDOC, but we are, frankly, stuck with it, and we better find out what's there and, what obligations we may have in the future. So that's, one of the extra places where money is going. We're also doing a $120,000 traffic study. Now, to me, that sounds like a lot of money, but the people who are in charge of these things tell us that's what it takes to get a good traffic study done. And I know we have a lot of traffic issues in the city, so, it's apparently a good place to spend the money. We also, I think we should point out that we have two major contracts yet to be negotiated with the police and fire departments, and they have not been taken in, well, they're taken into consideration, but at their present levels. So these are some things we may be facing in the future. So, even though it's good to say we have a balanced budget, things went well, it's all, looking bright and rosy, there are other sides to that coin too. So I think we have to be very careful going forward about how we spend our money, and I think we have been, but I think we have to double down on that. So that's what I have to say.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Maybe the last word. Let me leave everybody with this thought, though. In politics, and certainly elected positions are politics, the most difficult thing we come by is compromise. And the best explanation of that, the best example of that, is the budget. Because the budget process is truly one of give and take. All of us up here may have something we favor more than we might favor something else, and something else that we might not like to see in a budget, and something we take exception to. But as we, as a body, vote, and there's, again, 7 of us, and we put this budget together, it is essentially an exercise in compromise. And it's compromise that is very rare in the political world today. If you look at Lansing or you look at, God forbid, Washington, D.C., you'll see no compromise. Nobody takes prisoners. But here it's a process where that compromise took place, the budget was put together, good discussions, frank opinions, but in the end game, it's a budget we can all live with. And I think that's critically important, because compromise is how we get anything done. And I commend our commission for being able to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner at this time on agenda one?
Roll call vote.
Seeing none, I'll just add that I was very happy to see this 2013-2014 budget presented as it was, and we'll always be working to adjust as things come necessary, but at least we got everything that we've asked the city manager since he's been hired in May 2010 to bring this city into a very good budget, and he's at this level. We all, department heads, city manager, the staff, city employees, a gratitude of thanks for working very hard to get this accomplished. It was not an easy task when you can see what's lacking from the federal and state level for revenue sharing. We're no longer seeing what we used to see. Communities are getting more independent from the federal and state, and it's costing them very hardships, which at this time I believe that we're in very good shape to help the residents and keep the millage as it is presently. So I thank everybody, and with that, I'm going to ask the question. There's a motion by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse, to accept the recommendation of Agenda 1 following the public hearing, adopt the fiscal year 2013-2014 budget in general, Appropriation Act, and with that, I'll ask all in favor,
Your
say
Honor,
yes.
Your Honor,
Okay,
yeah,
thank
just
you.
before you call the roll, it's a motion to adopt the budget, approve the original motion as amended. So I think, just for the record, it's to approve the original motion as amended,
Okay.
and then we need a roll call vote on that.
Okay. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Benzie?
Yes.
Commissioner Coyne?
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan?
Yes.
Commissioner Schneider?
No.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Nemi?
Yes.
Mayor DePietro?
Yes. Motion passes 6-1, showing Commissioner Schneider voting no. Thank you. With that, we move to number 2, public hearing. Liquor license application, Black Rocks Brewery, LLC. City Clerk.
Thank you, sir. Background, the city has received a local approval notice from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for consideration of approval of a new microbrewery license from Black Rocks Brewery LLC, owners Andy Langlois and David Manson, to be located at 950 West Washington Street. City departments have reviewed the information and provided the following. Approval, police, treasurer, fire, property maintenance, and zoning. Fiscal effect, none to the city. Recommendation, concur with request from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for Black Rocks Brewery LLC and direct the clerk to sign the resolution. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. At this time, I'll open this portion to public comment. On agenda number 2, anyone wishing to address commission at this time on agenda number 2?
Frank Chaparito, 350 East Ridge, Marquette. These are my opinions. This comment is not to single out the appellants or the well-behaved, although often loud clientele. This is critical of the city's apparent open-door policy on liquor licenses. I've never lived in a town where alcoholism is so prevalent during the daytime, or where strangers end up passed out on people's living room couches. How many liquor licenses can we dispense in a town of 21,000 people before we reach the saturation point? If you read the police blotter, you'll realize that this town is saturated, oversaturated as is. Yet this board has historically gone out of its way to approve more and more, plus providing for a plethora of convenient booze outlets. I'm
You have
waiting
the floor.
for the mayor to stop writing. Thank you. Some people have said that a small business cannot survive in Marquette without alcohol revenue. By all means, grant their license pending other comments you may hear. However, at some point, this board needs to stop systematically approving every living appellant that comes before it. Please, even if not tonight, discuss setting a limit on liquor applications, because too many of your constituents are hooked on that liquid dope. And a lot of us are tired of being subjected to it, although I do love the taste of a good triple stout.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the commission at this time? Over here, sir.
My name's Andy Langlois. I'm 412 East Arch.
David Manson, 122 West Hewitt.
I also like a nice stout. But just to clarify, it's we're not applying for a liquor license. It's a microbrewery license. We won't be producing liquor. We won't be, well, we'll be selling beer, but not liquor from the place, so, but not a tap room. Anyways, to bring you up to speed, we were here about 2.5 years ago, and we presented, what we were planning on doing with a small microbrewery on 3rd Street. And things have gone pretty well for us, and we're really happy about it. And we're doing what we can to expand on our current site, which isn't a lot, but it's going to be a lot for us. The next step for us at this point is to get into the production game and distribution. Michigan is growing at a rapid rate in the craft beer world right now, and there's a lot of attention on Michigan with Bell's and with Bell's out of Kalamazoo. You have Founders in Grand Rapids and Shorts in Bel Air, and we're kind of at the point now where we want to be Black Rocks from Marquette. And we fortunately have come across the old Coke building, which was abandoned, and we walked in the place. It looks perfect. So we've been working our butts off over there and trying to get everything in order. And here's where we are at this point right now. We're dirty hands setting up tanks and waiting on your approval so we can get it to the state and hopefully get our state license and start putting out a brand that Marquette can be proud of. So, anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. If you have any questions.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the commission at this time? Anyone else wishing to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of public comment. Turn it over to my commissioners. Commissioner Stonehouse.
I motion to concur with the request for the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for Black Rocks Brewery LLC and direct the city clerk to sign the resolution.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryan?
I'll support the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse, anything further?
Well, I think they've been a remarkable success story in Marquette, and I certainly look forward to the continued growth.
Thank you.
I feel the same. This is a good way to put a property that's been sitting idle for a long time, a good building right on Washington Street, back into work and hopefully create some jobs in our community. And I think that's a positive thing. I think beer is a fascinating story for those of us who have been around for a long time. There used to be all kinds of great breweries in the United States, and they all kept buying each other up, and then big conglomerates started to buy them, and pretty soon all the old beers that people knew about were owned by some foreign beer company, and including Budweiser, that had been around for so long. And now we're seeing this renaissance of beer being produced by young men like this and others in our community and around the state and around the country, and it's all kind of coming full circle. So I think that's a great thing.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Benzie?
I'd just like to commend Dave and Andy for the great job they're doing, also to thank them for buying a building in Marquette, the city limits. So thank you for keeping it within the city, and I wish you the best of luck. Can't wait to, I guess, have the first one out of a bottle or can, whichever comes first.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
I also just want to thank Dave and Andy for the work you guys have done. It's something really, really cool. I'm really happy to approve this to help get the expansion moving. I'm excited to see it, and good work. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none at this time, I concur with my fellow commissioners. Stay thirsty, my friends. With that, there's a motion by Commissioner Stonehouse, second by Commissioner Ryan, to accept a recommendation of agenda number 2 to concur with the request from the Michigan Liquor Control Commission for Black Rocks Brewery, LLC, and direct the city clerk to sign the resolution. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. Number 3 is public hearing, single lot special assessment, roll number 579, city clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Of note, the fiscal effect dollar amount has been changed due to payments that were made late today. So what the public has is not the figure that we currently have that we'll be approving.
Thank you.
Background. Chapter 40, Section 40-21 of the City Code requires that when an improvement shall have been made by the city upon or in respect to any single premises, the expense of which is chargeable against such premises and the owner thereof under the provisions of this chapter, and is not of that class required to be prorated among several lots and parcels of land in a special assessment district, an account of the cost to be charged to the owner shall be reported to the city treasurer, who shall immediately bill the owner if known. The city code further requires that when the city treasurer determines that a number of properties have had outstanding bills for a sufficient time, the treasurer shall notify the city assessor, who shall prepare a single lot assessment roll and schedule a public hearing before the city commission on that roll. Affected property owners have received notification of the time and place of the hearing in accordance with Section 40-21 of the City Code. Fiscal effect, $1,555.98 plus accruing interest and penalties. Recommendation, following the public hearing, confirm single lot special assessment roll 579 and authorize the mayor to sign the warrant. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, city clerk. At this time, I'll open this portion to public comment. Anyone wishing to address the commission at this time? Anyone wishing to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of the public hearing on single lot special assessment roll number 579. Commissioners? Commissioner Ryan.
I move we confirm the single lot special assessment roll number 579 and authorize the mayor to sign the warrant.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Nemi?
Thank you, Your Honor. I second the motion.
Commissioner Ryan?
For reasons explained by the deputy clerk, this is a normal procedure we go through, and this closes the books on this issue for us.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemi?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Any other commissioner? Commissioner Benzie?
I just have a question of staff only because I did get a phone call on someone who had recently bought a house, but there was a pending charge for mowing outstanding from the previous owner. And does that follow the house or the owner? I guess it follows the property, so they would have to pay that. I guess I thought that was interesting because you could, I guess, buy a house, you know, the realtor and the buyer could be unaware that there's an outstanding charge for lawn care. So I guess it just makes me feel uneasy unless there's, you know, I don't know how one person would find out about that. I don't, did you have any phone calls on this or?
I had a phone call from a property owner that had purchased a foreclosed property, and the realtor did come in and pay the outstanding bill because the realtor did not check if there were any outstanding invoices against that property.
Okay, so it is a realtor's responsibility. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
Yeah, maybe this is a question for staff. I'm not sure. Is there any way we can change that? I mean, obviously, it's the realtor that, it sounds like the realtor is responsible for disclosing that or making people aware of it. But it seems rather odd that that would follow the property rather than the person responsible for the issue. And so it's not necessarily a discussion that we have to get into now, but hopefully staff knows that there's at least one other commissioner that's concerned with that process.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryan?
Without listening to staff answer, I think it's probably because it's the one place we have some authority. We don't have any authority with someone who leaves town. And so that's probably why it is this way and should be this way. But certainly they have an obligation to tell the people purchasing the property.
I would hope so. Yeah, I just don't necessarily see it as fair. You know, in some ways that's, you could say if somebody passed away, you know, it's fair that we go after their kids because that's one person that's still alive that we have some claim on.
That's not what I'm saying.
I know it's not what you're saying, but it's a slippery slope. And so, worthwhile of a discussion sometimes.
Thank you, Commissioner Schneider. Any other commissioner on this special loss assessment? Seeing none, I'll go with, there's a motion by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Nemi, to accept a recommendation of agenda number 3 following a public hearing, confirm single lot special assessment roll number 579 and authorize the mayor to sign the warrant. With that, I'll ask the question. All in favor say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. At this time, we'll have a presentation, Investment Advisory Board, by Chairman Dan Emmendorfer. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you. Dan Emmendorfer with the 900 Lakeshore Boulevard. I'm here to talk about the Investment Advisory Board, essentially the checkbook for City of Marquette. For those of you who don't know, our purpose for the Investment Board is we were approved and appointed by the Investment Act of 1980 in accordance with the Public Act of 20 of 1943. The city's public funds are invested in a very strict, concise manner with all statutes, provisions of state laws and legal opinions, entrusted with to the board with the public funds. 5 members of our board currently are myself as chairman. Vice chairman is Carol Johnson. Dwayne Nygaard is the recent member. Gary Simpson is the financial officer, and then Diane Giddens also, and they both provide us with a lot of guidance as well. Meetings are held on a quarterly basis. Last year in 2012 we had 5 meetings. One was a carryover from the previous year, and without any excused absences. We have a very strict investment policy. We invest these the policy set up by the Public Act of Public Act 20, and this was adopted by the City Commission investment policy in 1997 and also of 2008. And then here is a current statement as of January 31st of the current balance: $20 million, $21,253 approximately as of January 31st of this year. Is a current balance in the portfolio. The current yield of that portfolio up to that date was 1.06%. Pretty high, huh? And also at the bottom of this footnote shows our public meetings and our dates. Our next one is in June, and then we go from there. So if anybody in the public's interested, please feel free to come and attend our meetings. Our goal is to establish and have an ongoing review of the status of the funds, the maturity dates on any bonds, and paying strict attention to the portfolio yield in today's tough environment. We try to monitor and analyze the cash flow needs of the city, making sure that there's enough liquidity to meet the current budget and projects that you have going, and also thinking a little bit for longer term for current funds that are not going to be used in the current fiscal year. We also do just that another function is the special assessment. Every 6 months we set the rate for the special assessment rates in the City of Marquette, as well as some of the policies as far as the payment options that somebody can get with those. Accomplishments. In 2008, the investment policy received the Certificate of Excellence Award from the Public Treasurers Association in the United States and Canada. And then also for each year, the last 26 years, we've been able to achieve a lot of excellence in financial reporting. I think that mostly is due to the city staff, especially Gary Simpson over there, who evidently is doing a nice job with that. Any questions?
Commissioners, any questions? Commissioner Ryan?
Not so much a question as a comment, I guess. Congratulations on getting 1 point whatever that was % in today's environment. That's pretty good.
Yeah, so thank you.
Especially with the kind of conservative investments I'm sure you have to follow. What about longer term? Are there any opportunities there for some longer term investments? I know some of our money we probably don't need.
Well, most of the longer term investments we have are usually our bonds, and they usually have callable dates. And as you know, in today's low interest rate environments, a lot of agencies, because they're usually very secure, high-quality agency bonds, they tend to want to call them when they're due and get the lower interest rate today, so it makes it very challenging. But Gary Simpson really does a lot of research on that and really does a heck of a job trying to keep up on making this possible.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
Dan, I have 2 questions for you. Is there any movement in the state legislature to ease the quite restrictive and risk-adverse investments that you're limited to?
Not that I'm aware of. Gary, do you know of any?
I'm not aware of trying to make it easier. I always hear about trying to restrict it even further than what it is. But as far as I know, as Dan mentioned as well, we're not aware of any current legislation going on.
Okay. And the next question is, there are 2 city employees, appropriate employees, to be on this. Is that required by the law, or does the commission have the right to have anybody on it they want, or do you have to have the chief financial officer? And
I think that is inherent with their positions for the city,
okay.
But who governs that, I don't know.
Okay.
Must be the city. Do you have any? Would you know? Bill? Mayor? Okay. So, sorry, I don't know. Good
Any
question.
other commissioner got questions for Mr. Emmendorfer at this time? Seeing none, thank you very much, Dan, and we
You're welcome.
appreciate everything that you do with your committee.
Thank you.
With that, we'll move to number 5, presentation, Northern Michigan University Center for Native American Studies by April Lindala. You can go up there. Could you hand them to the city clerk?
Good evening. Well, Kristine is helping me hand out some information. I want to first thank this governing board for the many times of support for serving as fiscal manager for the, go to that one, go to that
April,
podium.
She asked you to go over there.
Okay.
You don't have any you don't have any PowerPoint presentation, do you?
I believe, I thought Carl put one together, but no, that was for next weekend. Okay.
Okay.
Hi again. Equally good perspective. I do want to take a moment as I open to thank this governing board for the many times of support over the last, probably since 2005, number of years that serving as our fiscal manager for Center for Native American Studies events, Native American Student Association events. This really allows both our center and the student organization to host many valuable cultural programs on the university campus for not only the campus community but the Marquette community at large, and we wouldn't be able to do that without the support of the commissioners and the city to do that. So I just wanted to say thank you for that as I open. This evening's presentation stems from some conversation with city staff since I think the month of February. And this is a request, I guess, that I'm kind of posing to the commissioners based on those conversations. And this is a program a collaborative art project that some of us have called Mikwindazogi. Mikwindazogi is the Anishinaabe word for, or phrase for to be remembered. And this project is intended to facilitate a creative cross-cultural exchange and experience that will lead to a better understanding of our shared communities as Native and non-Native people through the creation of original artwork on the Presque Park sign and the documentation of the artist's process. Why is this? Well, as I mentioned, it stems from questions raised to our faculty at the NMU Center for Native American Studies by city employees about the appropriateness of the Presque Isle sign and the representation of American Indians on that sign. And from those questions, the dialogue of why it is important to have authentic representation, appropriate representation, artful symbolism, the idea of the need for that positive Native identity really kind of came to the forefront. And from that stemmed this idea that came to my mind. So this is actually a twofold project, and that is to reestablish that beloved welcome sign with tribal citizen, KBIC tribal citizen Sherry Aldridge as the artist, but also with Kristine Granger, photography instructor at Northern Michigan University, to work with 7 to 10 tribal youth to document the process of that artist and what takes steps, the multiple steps that will take place. And so they're going to learn, these youth will learn the ability to be able to take the photographs, learn how to develop the film, and in general, I've brought a sample of a book that we hope that they might be actually able to produce as a deliverable at the end of the project, in which the documentation of all the steps in the recreation of that sign will be in this book and available to the public at large. So with all of these, we have basically, in brief, 2 intended outcomes. Understanding there needs to be the reestablishment of that sign, but that it is culturally appropriate, representative, and artfully symbolic, and have 7 to 10 youth create a self-published book documenting the process. Another possible outcome may include media coverage on the project, in which that's something that I'm very interested in having. A national media outlet such as Indian Country Today, which is a nationally known Indian publication out from out west, actually come and have coverage of the process as it's going on. On the back of your sheet, it does have short bios on each of us, myself, Kristine, and Sherry, but it also addresses the timeline, which I know we're very mindful of the need for having this done in a short amount of time based on the city's request and their comments saying that they are getting a lot of calls. When is the sign coming back? We want to take pictures with the sign. People do miss it. It's been gone for a couple summers now, and so we're mindful of that. But that is the decision making is going to be a little bit out of the hands of this evening, in that we do want to approach the Keweenaw Indian Communities Tribal Council to see if they would be a collaborator on this project and assisting us with resources to make this project happen. So I guess I'm coming to you for not only informative reasons, but also to seek your approval, and then also to answer any questions you may have about the project. And I am assured by the city manager and Carl Zuger they can also answer any questions that I cannot. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to take them. And Kristine and Sherry are here to answer any questions you may have as well.
Commissioners, any questions for April Lindala? Commissioner Nemi.
Thank you, Your Honor. And thank you, April. I just wanted to bring out that right now we're recreating the sign, and it's in bad condition. And the nice thing about this project, we'll have the original artwork, so that once the sign that we originally create out at Presque Isle, as that needs replacement, we'll have the original artwork from which to do that. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes. In fact, in speaking with the city manager and Carl Zuger, it is my understanding that might even be something that's put on permanent display within a city building, and we would certainly think that would be a very exciting way to doubly have that as a visual symbol of the shared community. Mm-hmm.
Commissioner Coyne.
I have a question, April.
Mm-hmm.
I really like this idea and the cross-cultural dialogue and cross-cultural respect. One of the concerns is when the artwork is made, will the tribe have, who's going to say this is fine to, and respectful and honoring the Native American culture, rather than they don't like it? Or what issue do we get in there? Could you discuss that for a minute?
I will do my best to try to do so. I think one of the things that I would say is that the artist, Sherry, that came to mind, has not only been juried by the city of Marquette for past art shows, she has been commissioned by the Keweenaw tribal community for portraits by tribal citizens in her own community up in Baraga. And so with that being in mind, the sense is that when we present to their council, which we of course cannot predict what they might have questions about or comments about to that regard, the idea being is that there would be that understanding of authenticity coming from this tribal artist who's a citizen of that community. So it would be hard to predict if they had any questions and or concerns with what the actual piece may or may not look like. And there are no samples for the purpose of having those students being able to document the actual idea of coming and bringing that sampling to life even. So there's not even any kind of sample to show as of yet. So I'm not sure if I answered that or...
Yes, you did. And
okay.
I guess one of the things, if the Tribal Council of KBIC says we would like to sponsor this, will they give some direction as to what they want, or is that going to be strictly the artist?
Yeah, I think with my past experience, again, I can't predict what they'll say, but with my past experience, they've been incredibly hands-off in allowing our center autonomy, understanding and trusting that we as a center might put on a cultural program that would be appropriate, that they would not only support, but then continue to support in the future and have proven to do so. And so I think that's something from my experience, there's been that autonomy and respect.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, City Manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd only add that we've had a great working relationship with KBIC, and from speaking with their tribal chief, I again not wanting to presuppose what their council might suggest, but this is exactly part of the dialogue we hope to have with them in the upcoming meeting on June 1st. So I would imagine that it would be some kind of a discussion where how will both parties agree to what would be appropriate from the tribal perspective, what would be appropriate from the city perspective. And I think April's captured it wonderfully. We'd like to maintain as much of a hands-off process as we can, let the creative process work.
Thank you. And Commissioner Benzie?
Well, I think this is an amazing project, and I am very, very excited, and I'm pleased that it's taking the direction it is. I know Sherry will do a great job. I know Kristine too. I mean, this is great. And I do want to say, I know our city manager and Carl Zucker have done an amazing job making the contact with you, working with you, making sure that, I guess, the project takes its right path, and this will be monumental for the citizens of Marquette. So I'm excited, and I echo what my other commissioners have said, and I thank the city manager and Carl for their work too.
Mm-hmm. I don't want to be neglected not including Tina and John in that conversation. Tina first reached out to me about this in February, so I don't want to not include them as very mindful staff to do that and approach us. So thank you.
You talking of Tina Harris and
yes.
John
Svensson? Okay.
Okay. Just a minute.
For the record, yes. Thank you.
For the record. Commissioner Schneider?
Yep. Just one more thank you both to staff and to April for seeing this vision and putting it together. I'm equally as excited as the rest of the commission. I think this is a really good project, and I actually hope that it's a baby step and we're in bigger projects that we can take on together in the future.
Yeah, me too.
So thank you all staff and April for your work.
Commissioner Ryan?
I'll just say I would strongly support the project too. Do you have some indication that the Keweenaw Bay community will support getting involved with this project? Have you had
I have not. We will be visiting with them Saturday, June 1st, this Saturday, for their tribal council meeting. And we'll take the message at that time and see what happens. But I think I guess one of the reasons I would be encouraged is they have been supportive of projects similar to this in fashion that I have presented to them in the past. But again, we can not predict what their decision will be.
As you pointed out, timing is of the essence, so.
That's correct.
Important, yeah.
Yes.
Thanks for all you've done on this.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Stonehouse.
April, only that this is really remarkable, and I look forward to it coming together on a number of levels, and it's really going to be cool. You know, I want to see, I just am anxious to see it up, and it's going to be something that I think will be in its own right a real attraction for people, regardless of the park that kind of lays beyond it. I think they'll be going there to see the sign. So thank you.
Any other commissioner at this time? Seeing none, I want to thank you very much. And I also am very excited about this venture. I think it's really going to be a great thing, and we'll see you in the near future.
That's right. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. Miigwech.
With that, we'll move to number 6, boards and committee recognition of outgoing member Melissa Sprouse, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee. I believe that she didn't make it here this evening, so we'll save our presentation next time she is present. And with that, we'll welcome new member Terry Szczepanski, Presque Park Advisory Committee. Terry, if you could meet me over here at the lectern. On up here, Terry, so they can see you on TV. Just a minute. Just a minute. You're coming right up here. Right. They're getting ready to switch. There you are. Okay. He's serious. But anyways, I want to thank Terry very much for coming aboard on the Park and Rec Advisory Board. I know he's very excited about hitting the ground and running, and we're going to present Terry with the city pen as starting off as a new member. So anyways, Terry has some stuff he wants to say before I give him his city pen. You have the floor, Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been in Marquette for 45 years and came up here to go to Northern and got my bachelor's and master's and never thought of a good reason to leave. And I'm still very happy to be here. Being on a board is not new to me. I've been on the Zoning Board of Appeals, the Downtown Development Authority Board, the 3rd Street Redevelopment, the Peter White Public Library Board, I don't know, a couple other things. But it's been a while. And now that I'm retired, I last year started looking around and trying to see something that I could maybe do to help again. And I live near Presque and have a love for it, and I put in for the board, and I'm very happy to be part of it. I have seen the list of members, and I am excited to work with, I think, a very fine group of people. And I wish to thank the Commission for allowing me to do that. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you very much. And here's your pen.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We have a round of applause for.
Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll move to reappointments. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Reappointments. Fred Benzie, City Appointee to Marquette County Solid Waste Management Authority, term ending 7/1/16. Kristine Granger, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, term ending June 1/16. Diana Magnuson, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, term ending 6/1/16. Frank Richardson, Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, term ending 6/1/16. And Chad Lewis, Harbor Advisory Committee, for a term ending 6/1/16.
Thank you, City Clerk. Is there a motion? Commissioner Schneider?
Yeah, I move that we appoint Fred Benzie, Kristine Granger, and Chad Lewis as read.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne? Thank you. Anything else, Commissioner Schneider?
A few things. One, I think that it's great that we have people stepping up into volunteer positions. I'm always appreciative of that. especially after serving a full term and willing to serve another. You'll probably notice I picked 3 out of the 5, and that's specifically because I had requested from the Arts and Culture Committee that that they look into doing an artist residency program. And I am not willing to reappoint people who sat on a committee when charged with a task by the commission who decide not to come through with it, and not even to come up with a reason why they weren't able to do it, further dialogue. I guess I'm really disappointed in members of committees who don't come through with what we've tasked them for. So, if somebody else would like to make an appointment or reappointment for those 2, that's fine. Can't support it. But I do definitely support the 3 reappointments that are on the motion.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
No further comments. Make another motion later.
Okay. Any other commissioner wanting to address this? Okay. All in favor of, there's a motion by Commissioner Snyder, second by Commissioner Coyne.
To appoint whom?
To appoint.
Kristine Granger, and Chad Lewis as read.
Thank you.
As read. All in favor, say yes.
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 Oppose? Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Coyne.
I would like to make a motion to reappoint Diana Magnuson and Frank Richardson to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee.
Thank you. Second? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Second.
Commissioner Coyne?
I would like to reappoint them, and I really respect Commissioner Snyder for speaking out and saying what he did. I personally, just the year that or less than a year, been observant, is they have been struggling, and they've been struggling with leadership, and I don't think it's fair unless we know these 2 specific people have dug their heels in and not wanted to do it, and I have no knowledge that that's the case. So we have new leadership. We have at the budget hearings begun to get underway an arts and culture plan, like we have rec plans, et cetera, and that's going to help them get direction. And I think I'd like to thank these folks for serving and being willing to step up, because I think if they were against it, they probably wouldn't be going in this direction, because I think I have great hopes for the Arts and Culture Committee, because I think they are going to have direction, they're going to have a plan, and so I welcome their willingness.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Well, I think Commissioner Coyne said it all. I would only amplify slightly that I have no knowledge of certainly the performance of these individuals, pro or con. I believe that certainly, as Commissioner Coyne indicated, the committee itself is going through a period of forming and reforming. They will be getting better guidance, certainly, and I look forward to great things from them. And I'm going to give them every opportunity to continue, or rather to really excel, to hit their speed. So I strongly support the nomination.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Schneider?
I definitely want to concur with, I understand that the Arts and Culture Committee has gone through some turbulence over the last few years and has been struggling to identify itself. And I don't want this to be a knock on a whole as it exists as a committee, or even or come back on the department and staff in any way. It's just an issue of performance. If staff was to blatantly not do something that we had requested staff to do, that would be a major issue. And so if a subcommittee member doesn't do something that we had directly asked them not to do, or to do, I don't think it's worth a reappointment. I definitely respect my fellow commissioners' opinions on this, but had to make my opinions known.
Okay, thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none, there's a motion by Commissioner Coyne, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse, to reappoint Diana Magnuson and Frank Richardson to the Arts and Culture Advisory Committee for a term ending 06/01/16 for both of these. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion passes 6-1, showing that Commissioner Snyder voting no. Thank you. At this time, we'll move to public comment. Comments should not exceed 3 minutes per person. Citizens may reserve time to speak on agenda items. This may result in the item being moved up on the agenda at the mayor's discretion. Anyone wishing to address the commission at this time?
I'd like to address Don Britton, 121 Deerview Trail, Harvey. I'd like to reserve time on agenda item number 9, if there's any questions on that item.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wishing to address?
Good evening, Mayor DePietro and Commissioners. Stan Bigham here with 719 Pine. I'm here to make myself available for agenda item number 12 if you have questions and or comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Stan.
Yeah, my name is Mike Beauchamp, and some of you might remember me from 2009. I've been organizing and running the...
Physical address, please.
Oh.
Your physical address.
328 Harrison Street.
Thank you. You have the floor.
Okay, thank you. Been running the Music in the Park, organizing and running it for the last 4 years. In 2000, well, let's see. Let me tell you what it's like. This is a volunteer program that was supported with the city's support since 2009. Since its beginning, this program has presented over 100 individual music acts down at the Presque Bandshell during the summertime on Friday nights. It is estimated to have reached a total audience of over 5,000 people. It's very popular with local musicians, as it provides them with a quiet, natural venue and an opportunity to play to an audience that's there to listen to them. It has provided the people of Marquette and its tourists with a no-cost opportunity to discover local talent and enjoy the beauty of Presque. Well, the reason I'm here now is because there's some confusion on my part, perhaps on pretty much everybody's part, about the city's support for this. It was my understanding that in 2009 the program was placed under the Music and Culture Center. And the reason we needed that to happen was so that it would be covered by liability insurance, the city's liability insurance, and their music license. And the Friday night bandshell fees were waived for that. For several years we've been operating under that assumption. And now it appears that maybe that might not be the case. What I'm really here tonight to ask you all is to consider doing that again, I guess, or for the first time perhaps, and approving this as a city program under the Arts and Culture Center with the liability and music license stipulations so that this program can go on. Let's see, Music in the Park costs the city next to nothing. The Friday nights that we were granted
1 minute left, sir.
A waiver for usually are about Judy Ackless figures were 2.5 hours roughly, and what I need is for this to proceed quickly because we have concerts scheduled starting June 21st, and if we don't have that resolved perhaps by your next meeting, which I believe is on June 10th, Carl Zucker and I suspect Bill Vida as well, to know the circumstances of what's happened, and you can draw on their resources. So again, I just ask that you enable this very popular program to continue down at Presque by approving this as a city, or reapproving this as a city program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the commission at this time?
To speak on items 9 and 14, these are my opinions. The commission does a good job of handling a wide array of items, which partly safeguards you from your poor handling of land use and public safety matters. May 13th, you performed well on the sign ordinance and on the senior center. Mr. Ryan later complained about the very discourse that in fact contributed to your good handling of those items. One concern was Mr. Schneider's support of the sign ordinance because, quote, it's better than the previous wording, but it's not a bill he'd like to see supported. Why vote for a bill that you don't want to see supported? Mr. Stonehouse sought to amend the motion to disallow electronic messaging signs in the DDA and along Lakeshore Boulevard. Mr. Ryan and Coyne disagreed because it preempts the Planning Commission. They were too fixated on formality to see the forest through the trees. In this case, the amendment was not a planning issue, but was a city commission issue, because its wide importance exceeds the planning aspects. As Mr. Stonehouse said, everyone is opposed to those signs, which is easily 95% true. So adopt the amendment yourselves instead of wasting the planners' time. They have enough on their plate, such as critical slopes ordinances for the past 12 years. On the senior center, you zeroed in on the best possible option to make essential repairs to the present center while planning for a center in a new or a renovated central building. Your most efficient idea of the decade was to integrate the senior center and community centers to include everyone, to bring everyone together. Taxpayers would justify the expense more willingly if we all benefited. May 13th, you consolidated the following agenda items onto your consent agenda: Founders Day, Public Works Recognition Week, Emergency Medical Service Week, Waterfront Safety Week, and Arbor Day. How can you place so little importance on those causes as not even to show the decency of reading a page-long supplement? Not even Waterfront Safety and Arbor Day, with all the trees we've lost lately. You dishonored those items to move your meeting along. May 13th, Mr. Ryan motioned to approve the bed and breakfast immediately after citizen comment. He'd prepared his lengthy motion ahead of time, prompting him to rush yet another motion. While no one is opposed to a bed and breakfast there, Mr. Ryan cared less about public comment or whether a highly visible red-stained building would impact the boulevard, and neither did the rest of you. Mr. Ryan's disproportionate percentage of motions ruled yet another meeting. He motions too prematurely to give others a fair chance, like a ball hog in a basketball game. I have no power or authority here, but on matters regarding these opinions, I'll challenge all the authority, credibility, and the resume that Mr. Ryan has ever mustered, including on Picnic Rocks and potentially Heartwood. In fact, his motivations and his influence are being challenged like he's never seen.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address commission at this time? Anyone else wishing to address commission at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of public comment. Move to number 7, consent agenda. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. A, approve the minutes of the May 13th, 2013 commission meeting. B, approve the total bills payable in the amount of $358,987.44. C, schedule a public hearing for June 10, 2013 to review the Planning Commission's recommendations for zoning ordinance amendments regarding high-risk erosion area overlay zones. D, retain the current special assessment rate of 4% for the period of June 1, 2013 to November 30, 2013. E, approve the purchase of a network-attached storage device and configuration services from 906 Technologies in a total amount not to exceed $7,145. F, grant a license to Marquette County for use of city right-of-way per the application dated April 12, 2013. G, schedule a public hearing for June 10, 2013 to consider ordinance number 603 to amend sections 2501 and 2502 paragraphs 1 of the Marquette City Code effective July 1, 2013. H, approve the release of $2,110 from the Japan Artist Exchange Fund at the Marquette Community Foundation for travel expenses to Higashu thank you, Japan for an exchange artist. I, adopt the resolutions to place unpaid stormwater, water, and wastewater utility charges on the next city tax roll for collection and authorize the clerk to sign the resolutions. And J, award a contract for the package reconstruction project of Alloway Road and Altamont Street to Oberstar Inc. in the amount of $1,115,272.07 based on the quantities and unit prices bid.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners? Commissioner Ryan.
I move the consent agenda be approved.
Thank you. Second, Commissioner Nemi.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner
I'll second the
Ryan.
motion.
Routine items. No further discussion needed.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemi.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Benzie.
I will not vote for this, specifically for item F. There was considerable discussion, it looks like, between engineering and public works about the license for the use of the right-of-way, per the applicant. And I'm just wondering if this could have been discussed a little further, between the city and the county. Anytime you can move features like this out of the right-of-way, it's ideal. The street is how it is now. We don't know how it will be in the future. We don't know what utilities will be there in the future. The other thing is the suggestion coming from engineering and public works, I believe would have made this barrier-free. And that's always something that I strive for. So I will not be approving the consent agenda for item F. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none, there's a motion by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Namey. I'll ask all in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed?
Opposed.
Motion passes 6-1, showing Commissioner Benzie as voting no. Thank you. With that, we'll move to number 8, park concessions lease agreement. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Background: at its April 30, 2012 meeting, the City Commission approved a one-year lease agreement with Vangos, Inc. to operate the concession stands at Matson Park and Presque Park. Vangos is proposing to renew the one-year lease, compensating the city with $300 per month for the Presque store and $550 per month for the Matson Park store. They based their proposal on $9 per square foot. They will be responsible to pay for electric utilities. Last year, the total utilities were $1,130 for the 2 locations. By privatizing, it allows staff to continue to be directed towards other value-added initiatives. It also guarantees revenue generation, which has been weather-dependent. Fiscal effect: the general fund will receive $4,250 in lease proceeds. Recommendation: approve the lease agreement between the city and Vangos, Inc. to operate concession stands at Matson Park and Presque Park, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as directed by the Commission.
Commissioners? Commissioner Schneider?
Move that we approve the lease agreement between the city and Vangos to operate the concession stands at Matson Park and Presque Isle, and authorize mayor and clerk to sign the agreement.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Ryan?
I'll support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
I think this is a really good example of public-private partnership in providing services and some enjoyment and ice cream to the community, and I hope that it continues and goes well for them.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryan?
I agree with those comments.
Any other commissioner? Seeing none, I'll ask the question. There's a motion by Commissioner Schneider, seconded by Commissioner Ryan, to accept the recommendation of agenda number 8 and to approve the lease agreement between the city and Vangos INC to operate the concession stands at Matson Park and Presque Isle Park, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We'll move to number 9, Hiawatha Trails INC permit. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Background: the Hiawatha Trails, Inc., operating under contract with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, has had a trail permit with the city to develop and maintain snowmobile trails in what is known as the Heartwood Forest Land property. The permit had a term of 5 years, terminating March 31, 2013. Hiawatha Trails, Inc. has requested the city consider renewing the permit for an additional 5 years. Liability to the city is restricted under PA 201 of 1953, entitled and amended by PA 177 of 1974, Section 300.21, Compiled Laws of 1970, Recreational Trespass Liability of Landowners, and the Assumption of Risk section of the Snowmobile Park of the Michigan Department of Natural Resources and EPA Act 451 of 1994 as amended. The Parks and Recreation Advisory Board reviewed the request at their April 15, 2013 meeting and recommended the City Commission consider approval. Fiscal effect: there is no fiscal effect with this action. Recommendation: approve the Hiawatha Trails, Inc. request to renew a trail permit in sections 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 of the Heartwood Forest Land property for the purposes of developing and maintaining a snowmobile trail. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. I have two people that wish to address this, Mr. Berto and Mr. Britton. Whoever wished to come up to make their public comment at this time.
Don Britton, 121 Deerview Trail in Harvey. Basically, it's just a renewal on an existing trail system. I don't have any comment other than if there's any questions or from anybody.
You're fine. Thank you, sir. Oh, you did. Okay. Okay. You had the floor.
These are my opinions. Tonight, snowmobilers are facing the same reality of those of us who prefer natural habitat. Both groups share the unfortunate commonality of using the wooded spaces closest to town that are needed to conduct their pursuits. Until recently, there was plenty of room for everybody, so nobody needed to care. As cities grow, the demands on space and conflicts within that given space multiply. The snowmobilers require their space, as do golfers, disc golfers, soccer players, and rowers. This is the impact that cities experience once they begin to get hemmed in by their city limits, hence our necessity to restrict the Heartwood property to non-motorized use. This isn't fair to the snowmobilers who have enjoyed past use of the property, and they deserve choices of places to ride and even a means to travel north and south through town. The fact is, the area has grown with no effort made to accommodate them, forcing motorized users and nature seekers alike to travel farther from town. We know from studying urban growth that Heartwood in full isn't large enough to accommodate even our future known needs, and a majority of current members have spoken of compromising even that. Soon, if not already, the tract will receive heavy winter use for hiking, cross-country skiing, and snowshoeing, which is in total conflict with motorized activities. Ruins the experience. A single snowmobile would be heard over a large percentage of the entire tract, impacting the tranquility, if not the safety, for almost every other fathomable use of the property. In an area this small, we must not allow a single disruptive use to override the vast majority who see quiet, low-impact experiences. Just like the snowmobilers are having a harder time finding the space to enjoy their sport, many of the rest of us are having an equally hard time every year finding the space to enjoy a peaceful experience, and there's no end in sight.
Thank you, sir. Commissioners, Commissioner Stonehouse, Mr. Britton, could you return to the podium, please?
Yes. Mr. Britton, how long has that trail been used by snowmobilers?
I believe it started, actually, it's been there for over 20 years. It was rerouted 15 years ago. It used to go straight up the railroad grade through Dr. Matson's property, and he did not renew a permit for one season, which required a crossing on the Morgan Creek, so we rerouted through the Heartwood property, and then the city bought it about 5 years after that.
Okay, and my understanding is that the snowmobilers have put a considerable amount of money into the trail system that's there.
It's in excess of $85,000.
And that includes bridges as well as trail improvements.
And some dozer work, and actually building a trail. The trail did not. The Heartwood property was inaccessible on the west side, and we developed a trail so the whole property is accessible now.
Great, thank you very much.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse?
I'll make a motion.
Okay. Commissioner Stonehouse?
I would like to motion to approve the Hiawatha Trails, Inc. request to renew a trail permit in Section 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 of the Heartwood Forest Land property for the purposes of developing and maintaining a snowmobile trail.
Thank you. Second, Commissioner Schneider?
Support.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Well, I think as Mr. Britton indicated, the trail's been there a very long time. The group in question has put a considerable amount of effort and money into rehabbing the trail, maintaining it, and constructing it, and certainly I think they've proven themselves to be good stewards of the property, and we should support that.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
I'll concur with Commissioner Stonehouse. And as to be expected, I actually shared a lot of similar feelings with Frank as well, with Mr. Verito, about the mixed use there. And I think as our land gets tighter and tighter as we spread out, we're running into more issues of what are traditionally seen as conflicting uses. And, it's something that's been used for a really long time, and there's quite a few people that have been using those woods to hike and snowshoe. And so, I don't want to be unfair to either group, even though I think everybody knows that I'm definitely a silent sport enthusiast. So, I want to be able to see more user groups using that area, the user groups that have been using it to continue to use it, and hopefully be able to build some bridges between each other. On that note, I wanted to also let the commission know a few weeks ago I had the chance to meet with the Four Wheelers Club, since this is slightly related, and discussed with them the potential partnership with the NTN on their parking area, and trying to find ways to work together so that they might be able to come back to the city with I guess a comprehensive idea of how they can use that space for recreation, for all types of recreation. So I just wanted to put that on your radar, but I definitely support the use of multi-user groups and hope that it works out well.
Thank you, Commissioner Schneider. Commissioner Ryan?
Well, just a question. They had requested a 5-year renewal. The motion as recommended does not address a time period. Do we assume it's a 5-year?
Yes, it would be. My motion should assume the 5 years as requested.
Okay, it wasn't
Thank
listed.
you.
It's not your fault. It wasn't listed.
Thank you
here,
for pointing that out.
Thank
And
you.
my second remains.
That's all.
Okay, any other commissioner wanting to address agenda number 9? Seeing none, we'll move to motion by Commissioner Stonehouse, seconded by Commissioner Schneider, to accept a recommendation of agenda 9 to approve the Hiawatha Trails INC request to renew a trail permit in section 31, 32, 33, 34, and 35 of the Heartwood Forest Land property for the purpose of developing and maintaining a snowmobile trail. With that, I'll ask all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. With that, we'll move to agenda number 10, UP Community Rolling Club Lease Agreement. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Background. For the previous 4 years, the UP Community Rowing Club, UPCRC, has contracted through the city for use of city-owned property adjacent to Lake Superior and Parcel 3 at Founders Landing for storage of their trailer and rowing shells. The length of the prepared agreement is May 1, 2013 through November 1, 2013. The city attorney has prepared the lease agreement, which meets the group's needs. The parties expect the UPCRC will utilize 556 square feet at a rate of 75 cents per square foot for a total lease amount of $417 for the term of the lease. The UPCRC will be required to provide the city with a current certificate of insurance as outlined in the attached lease prior to any activity occurring. Fiscal effect. The city will realize $417 of revenue. Recommendation, approve a lease agreement between the city and the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club, Inc. for the period May 1, 2013 through November 1, 2013, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners? Commissioner Schneider.
Move that we approve the recommendation as read.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Coyne? Commissioner Schneider.
Great group. Glad to be signing the lease and hope to see them out there.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
Well, I echo that, and I hope someday they're going to have some place to store them that's safe and covered. Hint, hint, hint. Okay.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none, there's a motion by Commissioner Schneider, seconded by Commissioner Coyne, to accept a recommendation of agenda number 10 to approve a lease agreement between the city and Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club, Inc. for the period May 1st, 2013 through November 1st, 2013, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement. All in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. With that, we'll move to Number 11, Upper Peninsula Community Rolling Club Facility Lease. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Of note, in the lease rate of $192 monthly for 12 months, that should actually be $190 per month, and I'll read it as such. Background. Recently, the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club has submitted a proposal for consideration to lease approximately 380 square feet of vacant retail space at the observation deck of Founders Landing at 655 South Lakeshore Boulevard for the purpose of establishing a clubhouse in support of the rowing and human-powered water sport community. UPCRC has had a lease space at Founders Landing for 4 years for storage of their trailer and rowing shells. The city did solicit community interest in the spring of 2011. That effort resulted in no proposals. The proposal presented by UPCRC aligns with the city's priorities outlined in the 2011 request for proposal document, plans for Founders Landing, and Parks and Recreation Master Plan. UPCRC proposes a 2-year lease with a rate of $6 per square foot annually or $190 monthly for 12 months. They are requesting fee relief equal to the amount of investment for site improvements. The UPCRC intends to make an investment to the interior of the facility, including drywall and paint. All maintenance, including routine cleaning and preventative maintenance, will be the responsibility of the UPCRC. Additionally, UPCRC has offered to provide the city with services to ensure the beach is clean of minor trash and will maintain the flower pot through the Adopt a Park program. The proposal is contingent upon the city making any needed repairs and assuring the space is appropriately ready for occupancy. Fiscal effect, the city will realize $2,280 of revenue minus any fee relief determined appropriate by the City Commission. Recommendation, approve the proposal from the UP Community Rowing Club for leasing vacant retail space at the observation deck of Founders Landing at 655 South Lakeshore Boulevard for the purpose of establishing a clubhouse, and direct the city attorney to draft the lease agreement with the terms outlined in the proposal. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners. Commissioner Ryan.
I move we approve the proposal from the Upper Peninsula Community Rowing Club for leasing vacant space at the observation deck at Founders Landing, and direct the city attorney to draft the lease agreement with the terms outlined in the proposal.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Nemi.
I'll second the motion, Your Honor.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryan.
I've walked by that space many times and wondered, isn't there some use we could put this to? I'm glad to see it being put to good use and actually city getting some revenue in the process, so way to go.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemi.
I think it's a good use for the space, and I think it's a good club that we can support. It's an addition to Marquette with our natural resource, the lake, and it's just a good adjunct to our park.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Schneider?
Just a quick note that popped into my mind, given that space, we could rent it as an apartment and make 10 times as much on that space. But I'm glad to see that it's being used, especially for an organization that's doing such a great job.
I don't think it meets code.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Only that to go back to my my earlier comment about the fun of drinking coffee and watching these guys work. Boy, it was interesting the other day to watch these guys out rowing. The coaster going out under full sails with the American flag flapping in the wind, and then the Isle Royal Queen going out around on the harbor. And to look at all the activity occurring downtown in the lower harbor. It really just is a lot of fun. And again, good stuff and good luck with the building.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
I have two questions. Well, really one question. Is there heat in that building? Anyone know?
I apologize, Commissioner. I don't know offhand. Let me ask either Community Services, Community Development to chime in.
It's my belief there
engineer
is.
there. I figured
Do you
might.
believe there is?
That's my understanding. Mhm.
Okay, and
I haven't been in there in the winter, and it hasn't been occupied in the winter.
okay,
But it's been, when it was established, or when it was built as a four-season facility.
okay. So, reviewing the lease, they're not going to pay any utilities, as I see in the lease, correct?
It's my understanding,
Okay.
Commissioner, that's embedded.
Well, I think it's an interesting point. If they're going to rent it in the winter for 6 or 9 months of winter, you don't have any heat. I think that's a reasonable thing to be addressed down the road. And the other, I cannot help myself in follow-up to Jason's comments. You know, it's a $650,000 bathroom and room we're renting. I just can't get over that. Okay, thank you. And I also am really glad they're there, because I think it'll be the first step for them, for their establishing a presence there, and hopefully a place for them to be accommodated, just as we accommodate motorboats and sailboats. I think it's a very good step.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none, there's a motion by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Nemi, to accept the recommendation of agenda number 11 to approve the proposal from the Upper Peninsula Community Rolling Club for leasing vacant retail space, thank you, at the observation deck of Flounders Landing at 655 South Lakeshore Boulevard for the purpose of establishing a clubhouse, and direct the city attorney to draft the lease agreement with the terms outlined in the proposal. With that, I'll ask, all in favor, say yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. With that, we'll move to number 12, Marquette City Agent Service Advisory Committee. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Background. In December 2011, the City Commission established a Senior Services Task Force with the objective to evaluate the Senior Center and develop a Senior Center facility plan. At the May 13th, 2013 meeting, the Commission accepted that final report. By accepting the report, the task force has fulfilled its obligation. At their April 8th, 2013 meeting, the task force made 2 motions for City Commission consideration: facility plan and need to establish a standing committee for aging services in the city. The motion under consideration is that the task force recommend the City Commission create a Marquette City Aging Services Advisory Group to represent the interests of seniors within the City of Marquette. Motion carried unanimously. The City of Marquette previously had a Council on Aging Advisory Board. The board has been inactive since 2006. The reason for decommissioning the board was difficulty filling vacancies. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, consider establishing a Marquette City Aging Service Advisory Committee to represent the interests of seniors within the City of Marquette. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Stan, did you want to speak on this?
I'm here. It's just a pleasure to answer questions.
Okay, you want to stand there for a minute? Any commissioner with any questions for Stan?
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules for further discussion.
Second.
Okay. At this time, I'll suspend the rules for discussion. Okay. All in favor, say yes.
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 Motion passes 7-0. Commissioner Wright?
I didn't necessarily have to go first, but is it correct that we don't have any type of senior citizens committee, advisory committee, other than the task force?
The task force serves at the mayor's pleasure, and we have not been disbanded yet, or until he dismisses us. But there is no committee, no formal committee.
Okay.
As part of the city government, we were appointed in 2008 as simply as a task force, and that's the way it's been since then.
It says that one of the problems in the past was finding people who were willing to serve, interested. What was your experience as a task force when you were trying to get input from the senior community?
We did find lack of interest from the senior community itself. I think there are always people that will step up to the plate when something concerns them, and that's what I'm hoping now. That I do feel like the senior citizens of this community are an integral part of the community, and I think as such their input is needed, and I just think it's an integral part of the government that it's not going to go away. Senior citizens' problems are not going to go away, and I think that we need to address them, and people that have concerns and how it's taken care of need to step up to the plate, and that was my original thought that for us to address the problems with the seniors of today and tomorrow, we have to form sort of a task force and be ahead of the game.
We have programs now which are ongoing, serving apparently the citizens who want to take advantage of those. What do you envision this committee would be doing? What kind of issues would they be looking at?
Well, I think one of the issues that's going to be an ongoing, if the commissioners have not fully addressed it, would be the issue of the city, the senior citizens, senior center itself, and the ongoing issues that the seniors address themselves, whether there are enough services coming out of the senior center. Do we have enough staff? Do we have enough money available for issues that concern them that they feel that the city should be responsible for? There's ongoing issues of, I look at the changes with the IT community and how the senior center can address those issues to bring seniors up to date with all the new computer technology and all the changes going on with Medicare, and there's just a lot of issues that they're going to need help with addressing.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
Sure. Stan, thank you. That is definitely more of a discussion right now for the commission rather than a direct question for you. Generally, I think a lot of the things that he brought up are actually quite significant, and the senior center could probably use a lot of help with them. I don't know if this is the right approach to finding that help, primarily because we have a number of boards and committees that we have a hard time filling already. And I think that if in 2006 we let it go because there wasn't enough people to fill the vacancies, I'm definitely concerned with that. I'm also concerned with the amount of community services boards and committees that we have. So many of them seem to be very special interest oriented, whether it's Presque, whether it's Harbor Advisory, whether it's Senior Center. And I think that, continuing to set up what I'll call special interest committees, they're always going to really, really push hard for that. And I think that in some ways it's good when you have a varied board of people who are interested in multiple things from multiple demographics involved in solving some of these problems, rather than a group that's specifically interested just in the one thing. So yeah, I have concerns with it. I'm not in support of creating it, but I hope that that our staff can find a way of working with the community to find solutions to some of these issues.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
Well, continuing the discussion, I really want to thank your committee to come up with this suggestion, because I think we should do this, and I have several reasons why. Your committee's going to die, and then nothing's going to happen. And I will use a community nearby, the city of Negaunee. They have a very active, very involved senior aging group board who are very involved in their senior center, okay? The corollary there is I don't see anything wrong with that. I think that's good. And I think they've selectively, correctly said Aging Services Advisory Board. And it's more than just a senior center. Don and I are aging. Well, yeah, but we're far ahead of the game. And as you will find out as you get older, there are other things than sitting around playing canasta. There's social issues that you have to do. You never heard of canasta, okay. Gin rummy or whatever. But
Serving on the city commission.
What?
Serving on the city commission.
Yeah, city. Okay. There's lots of issues that people have: insurance, Medicare, Obamacare, blah blah blah, on and on and on. And those are issues which are not just there. I mean, they have to be, I think, coordinated and dealt with. Now, it shouldn't. I think if I can convince you two folks of going ahead with this, it should consist of individuals, not just seniors. There are agencies there, the Y, the library, social agencies that are very involved in this and which should be involved in this aging process for our community. I think it really is a step which my goal eventually would be to then develop that into a senior a community center. Okay, and I don't see any way of that happening by it just happening. This is a way, and if it doesn't work, it's not like the end of the world if in 1 year we say, well, or 3 years, this isn't working, well, we abandon it. But it's at least something, because I don't hear any other plan to do it. Can I finish? Okay. Well, I don't see any positive plan to do anything to except ignore it. And this is a plan, and if it doesn't work, I'll be the first to admit it. But I really think that given the proper people who are appointed this, who represent different issues that seniors have, would be very successful. And there are people there who will do this. So I would urge you to put your opposition aside and consider voting for the motion I would intend to make to have it happen. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Nemi.
Thank you, Your Honor. I guess, this is a special interest, but 71% of this commission is senior citizens, so I think it's probably one of the reasons it might pass. And also, I think because our senior task force recommended this, I'm sure that they're going to flesh out the committee each and every time there's a vacancy for us. So it's going to be one that is always fully staffed. And I think it makes sense. I think Dr. Coyne hit on the head. It's going to be a group that will drive the plan that you folks came up with. And years ago it was when it met its demise, it wasn't just the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee, it was the Senior Handicapper Advisory Committee. The center at one time started as a senior center and expanded to both serve the needs of senior citizens and people with disabilities, and perhaps I think that's probably a natural concern of yours also, that with this new center it will be the same type of thing. But so I would support this.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse.
Question: How many Marquette seniors, and I'm going to parse the city out from the total workload of the senior center, how many Marquette seniors are actually supported by the center? A ballpark.
Over 2,000.
Over 2,000 are in and out?
Yes.
That's
I'm sure it's, I don't have that exact figure. I might have to ask Carl Zuger if he has those figures. He might have better numbers than me. I don't remember exactly. Do you have them? I know that we've looked at those figures multiple times, but I've looked at a lot of other numbers too. I know that the figure was over 2,000.
Now that's
I don't want to quote the wrong number. I don't have those figures with me today.
I mean, that's not number of visits. That's number of people.
Number of people.
Number of people. The reason I asked the question is because when we get the weekly reports, we're reflecting somewhere maybe high side of 30 or so that we see that different services were rendered to. And I don't know whether I'm talking an apple and an orange there. They only appear as a service as opposed to the number of people that may not be using a service but may be present. And the reason I'm kind of wandering down this path is because, we've got 21,000 plus people in the city. Roughly 20% or more of us are qualified as seniors. So we should have about 4,000 people in the city of Marquette alone that potentially would be customers, correct, to use the term, of whatever we choose to do in terms of providing services. And that's not even counting the folks out in the townships that we have the contracts with through the county. So it really is a very significant number of people with a very significant number of, I guess I'll say, different requirements, be they educational or be they physical or be they help with other issues. It is an important committee we can establish. We have no downside to doing it. We have considerable upside, and I certainly would support this. And I would also just state that every advisory committee we have represents a special interest or a special area, as you could define it a little differently. And we do that, and we establish those committees very deliberately because they have the expertise in one area that we expect them to advise us on. So I would not use the term special interest as being a purgative in that case, because it really only represents what we expect from them, expertise in one given area. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner Benzie.
Well, I just want to thank Stan for all the work he's done up to this point. It's very, very much appreciated, and I'm in total support of this. I think there's 4 things I'm interested in actually finding out, when putting together this committee, and that is one, Commissioner Stonehouse kind of hit on it, is who are we actually serving, how many, and where are they from? How many are from the city? Are they, from various areas? The second is who is being left out in that population. Are they people that just don't like where the center is currently? Do they want to be somewhere else? But I think there are some that we haven't found yet or kind of got their opinions. The third thing, can we do some surveys so that we reach multiple groups and residents, possibly utilizing our TV, newspaper resources? Can they help us get more information? And I guess the fourth thing is what do we do in the meantime? And I know there's a lot of different feelings, a lot of ideas out there, but I think the overall goal would be to build a new center, but that could take 5 or 10 years. So what do we do in the meantime? And I guess I'm interested to see what the community expects of us in the meantime. So again, I'm fully supportive. I think Stan and certainly all the committee members that served. But those are the 4 things I guess I'll be looking for.
I can answer a couple of those for you. Can I make a comment, Mayor?
Okay, go ahead.
The census, I'm almost positive, is about 6,600 people that are considered seniors in this city. The population of seniors, like I said in the last meeting, we have 3 distinct groups of senior citizens. The first group, number 1, doesn't even realize that they need a senior center yet. That's our experience from talking to them. They don't really realize or won't accept the fact that they're becoming a senior. Like myself, 53 years old, I don't consider myself a senior citizen yet, but I think as time goes, I will be able to utilize what the functions that they offer. The middle senior is the one who primarily uses a senior center, and those are the ones who are the most active. The older senior, we have very few that you actually visit it, but they do make phone calls and request services, and they're the ones who really need the help from the senior center. And that's the ones that some of these social services that really have to come into play that really help out.
Thank you. Commissioner Coyne?
Well, in follow-up to Commissioner Benzie's 4 points, that's exactly what an aging advisory commission or board would do. And they would develop, just like we heard today, a presentation from the investment. They have goals, objectives. We would expect that of them to help to advise us on those very issues. And to go back to the numbers, I think the Y I know serves over 2,000 seniors, okay, in addition to what our senior center does. And the numbers that Commissioner Stonehouse was referring to in the reports are usually how many home visits there were, and they're usually about 30, and then how many Meals on Wheels, and they're about 30. And that can't be translated into the overall population that we serve daily. That's a different number. So I think it is around 2,000 members that are actively or sometimes involved in that. So again, I feel like I'm beating on Commissioner Snyder, and I hope he's about ready to give up and vote correctly.
Commissioner Namey?
Commissioner Snyder. Your Honor, could we move to action? Do you think Commissioner Coyne wanted to make a motion? I think we could talk about this all night.
Commissioner Schneider?
Well, I'm just going to keep talking. That's part of our job here. But I'm sure a motion will be made fairly soon. First, I want to apologize to Commissioner Coyne for trying to flag down the mayor while you were speaking. I did not mean to be rude by that. I definitely just wanted to be able to answer some of those quickly. I feel kind of like the boogeyman in this situation because by no means am I trying to knock the aging community, which I'm aging at the same rate. The aging community here and the Senior Service Center and the Senior Service Task Force, I think that they all do an incredible job, and I think it's something in our community that's extremely important. I agree with you very much that I think we need to be able to, in time, turn the senior center into something that provides for more and more of the community across all ages. I think that's very important. I just don't know if this is the right mechanism to do it, and that's where my primary concern comes in. But I definitely think that all of the issues you brought up are extremely important, so I don't want to be seen as against those, just the mechanism.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemi?
I remember now. Maybe, perhaps Mr. Zuger can answer this. Do we still send out the Senior Horizons newsletter? Because if we look at
On
that
a monthly basis.
at that list, the number, we could probably get an idea of how many seniors there are in the city that are actually interested in,
It's
and
about
look at the
circulation.
edges. You could probably get a breakdown of whether it's city or township residents. So that's all I have to say, and perhaps we ought to move on to action.
Commissioner Coyne?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to establish a Marquette City Aging Services Advisory Committee to represent the interests of seniors within the city of Marquette, and to disband the advisory committee task force.
Is there a second?
I'll
Commissioner
second that.
Stonehouse?
I will second that motion, Your Honor.
Commissioner Coyne?
I have nothing further to say.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
It has been said.
Any other commissioner?
Yes.
Commissioner Ryan?
I will support this. I was going to say something under my closing comment, but it seems more appropriate here. Number one, I think if we do something with a senior center, which is a big question, as Commissioner Benzie pointed out, that's way down the road. I think we should first of all address what's going on with the existing center, and I'm going to come back to this commission and propose we put some money in the budget to do that. I didn't want to do it tonight just to complicate things, but I think, a reasonable amount, I'm not sure what that is. I think we'd have to get some input from staff, but we're going to be using that place for a long time, and, if the bathrooms aren't right and if there's some things we should be doing, then I think we should do that. Number two, I'm not convinced that a senior center is in our future. I'm not saying it's not, but I think it's worth exploring, definitely. The future is going to be very different. Seniors, people are living a lot longer. When do they become seniors? When do they want these kinds of services? And I think you've kind of pointed this out in some of your discussions. So I think it's something that really, I hope we can take a really good look at, and not just go in with these assumptions, well, we want to have a nice senior center. Let's find out, what do seniors want? Is it better off to work with the library and the YMCA and the arts and culture people, and you still have some kind of a home, but not this grand and glorious palace that people may or may not want to go to. So I just think it's really worth serious discussion, and I hope that's what we have, and that's why I would support this. But in the meantime, I think we have to put some money into the place we have, and I would think hopefully that would be one of the first tasks of this committee, to see what we have to do now to make the present existing programs and facility workable for the people who are using it.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? City Clerk, would you read back what Commissioner Coyne had made the motion on?
Certainly, sir. Commissioner Coyne moved and Commissioner Stonehouse supported. Consider establishing a Marquette City Aging Services Advisory Committee to represent the interests of the seniors within the city of Marquette, and to disband the task force.
Stand by. Commissioner Coyne?
Could we just remove consider, just say establish? I'm sorry. I fell into that trap there, sorry.
Commissioner Stonehouse, you agree with that?
Certainly.
Okay, there's a motion by Commissioner Coyne, second by Commissioner Stonehouse. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We'll move to number 13, Presque Marina dredging addendum. City Clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Background. At the April 8th, 2013 meeting, the City Commission approved an agreement with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources to fund 100% of the dredging costs at the Presque Marina, or $435,817. Half of the project funding will come from MDNR, waterways funding, and the balance from State of Michigan emergency dredging funds. Recently, the city received an MDNR agreement addendum for 50% of the dredging dollars, or $217,908.50. The addendum and resolution are required to qualify for the State of Michigan emergency dredging portion of the project. Fiscal effect. The Presque Marina Phase 1 project was approved under the fiscal year 2011-12 budget. The State Emergency Dredging Fund will provide for 50% of the dredging costs, or $217,908.50. Recommendation, approve the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Agreement Addendum and Resolution for the Presque Marina Dredging Project. Alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioner Nemi.
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we approve the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Agreement Addendum and Resolution for the Presque Isle Marina Dredging Project.
Second by Commissioner Stonehouse.
I will second the motion.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemi.
Well, I just think it's great that we're getting this entirely funded by the state, and actually the $217,000 is a lot more value to us because we were going to bond for this, so we'll avoid the interest on that portion of the project. So it's probably in the neighborhood of $300,000.
Thank you. Commissioner Stonehouse.
I heartily commend the city manager for being able to pick this up when the opportunity presented itself and make it happen.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none. There's a motion by Commissioner Nemi, seconded by Commissioner Stonehouse, to accept the recommendation of agenda number 13 to approve the Michigan Department of Natural Resources Agreement, addendum, and resolution for the Presque Isle Marina Dredging Project. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We'll move to number 14, McCarthy's Cove Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Grant Agreement. City Clerk.
Thank you, Mayor. Background. At the March 12, 2012 meeting, the City Commission adopted a resolution of support to submit a grant application to the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund to construct permanent restroom facilities at McCarty's Cove. The city was informed that the grant had been successful and received a development project agreement to be considered. The cost for the restroom project is estimated at $120,000. The grant will fund 74% or $88,000 of the project cost with a 26% local match. The local match may be either in-kind or cash contributions. Any local match not being in-kind will require support from the general fund. The Community Development Engineering Department will design the building, and the Department of Public Works intends to construct portions of the facility as an in-kind contribution. Fiscal effect. The MNRTF agreement requires a 26% match, which will include in-kind or cash contributions. The funds are included in the fiscal year 2012-13 capital improvement budget. Recommendation, approve the resolution accepting the terms of the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Project Agreement to construct permanent restroom facilities at McCarty's Cove and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement and resolution. Alternatives, not approve the project agreement.
Thank you, City Clerk. Mr. Berto? Okay, thank you.
I missed this item on the Channel 21 because the last page of the agenda played for too short a time. And here this item was, seen clearly on the library's agenda packet. For fat, the 1950s technology worked better than your newfangled City Hall channel. It pays to double check. A proper facility at McCarty's Cove is sorely needed. Because we're only at the grant stage, we've heard little discussion of where the restrooms would go. A crude map of the park is provided in your supplement with no site plan for a rest facility. You'll notice the property divisions, though, lining the lilac hedge and the old railroad grade. The manager recommended siting the building at the northeast corner of Lakeshore Boulevard and Michigan Street. This site is labeled by the number 500 on your map, which assumingly denotes the address of 500 North Lakeshore Boulevard. Our ability to use this property, which is southwest of the Shiras Park boundary, supersedes the viability of any site within the park. This site has the added benefit of serving walkers along Lakeshore Boulevard without detracting from our visual quality any farther into Shiras Park than necessary.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Ryan.
I move we approve the recommendation as proposed.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Schneider?
Second.
Commissioner Ryan?
Well, I've long advocated for this project, and I'm really pleased that city staff was able to go out and get the grant and to make it happen, because when we shifted swimming away from Picnic Rocks and more down toward McCarty's Cove with the lifeguards and the rest of it, you know, it's very difficult for people because they don't have restroom facilities there, and they're very sorely needed. So I think this is an excellent opportunity for the city to get the job done and move forward and provide something we very much need.
Thank you. Commissioner Schneider?
I concur with Commissioner Ryan. I look forward to having these done. I think it'll be a good addition to the park.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Commissioner Benzie?
Just a quick question. It says that the funds are included in the fiscal year 12-13 capital improvement budget. There's no, I guess, worry if these funds aren't expended, or will they just carry over, I guess, to the next budget? Okay, thank you.
Any other commissioner? Seeing none, there's motion by Commissioner Ryan, seconded by Commissioner Schneider to accept a recommendation of agenda number 14 and approve the resolution accepting the terms of the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund Development Project Agreement to construct permanent restroom facilities at McCarthy's Cove, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the agreement and resolution. With that, I'll ask all in favor, say yes.
Yes.
Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. We'll move to number 17, bids for curd in-place sewer main piping. City clerk?
Thank you, Mayor. Background. Plans have been developed by the engineering department to repair existing sanitary and storm sewer pipes by a trenchless construction method called cured-in-place rehabilitation. This rehabilitation process includes cleaning, removing roots, and installing a liner inside existing pipes. The projected lifespan of the rehabilitated pipes is in excess of 50 years. This is one process of replacing our existing sanitary sewer infrastructure without causing damage to the existing streets and closing streets for weeks. During this process, local traffic is usually maintained and controlled with flagmen and signage. The locations contemplated by this work area are problem areas identified by the city's Public Works Department and by the annual televising contract. This project will rehabilitate approximately 11,472 linear feet of sanitary sewer pipe between 8 inches and 18 inches in diameter. Bids for this project were opened on May 16, 2013. 4 contractors responded to our request for bids, and the results are summarized below. Instuform Technologies, Utility Services Authority, LLC, Inland Waters Pollution Control, Lanzo Lining Services, Inc., Michigan. Tabulating and checking of the bids found no math errors. Fiscal effect, $400,000 is available to complete this project in the fiscal year 2012-13 budget. Recommendation, award a contract for cured-in-place sanitary sewer piping to Instuform Technologies, USA, Inc., in the amount of $312,528.80 at the unit prices bid. The City Commission may want to consider adding to this contract not to exceed the original budget to take advantage of the low bid costs. Alternatives as suggested by the City Commission.
Thank you. Commissioner Nemi?
Thank you, Your Honor. I move that we award a contract for cured-in-place sanitary sewer piping to Instuform Technologies USA, Inc. in the amount of $312,528 at the unit prices bid, and direct staff to contract for additional work not to exceed the budget amount of $400,000.
Thank you. Is there a second? Commissioner Ryan?
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Nemi?
Well, this is one of the most cost-effective things we do. Typically, we call it slip lining. They've got a fancier name for it now, but I assume it's the same thing, and it's money well spent. It'll save us much in the long run.
Thank you. Commissioner Ryan?
I agree with the comments of Commissioner Nemi. Very good process.
Thank you. Any other commissioner? Seeing none, there's a motion by Commissioner Nemi, second by Commissioner Ryan, to accept the recommendation of agenda number 17, award a contract for cured in-place sanitary sewer piping to Instant Form Technologies USA, Inc. in the amount of $312,528.80 at the unit prices bid. The City Commission may want to consider adding to this contract not to exceed the original budget to take advantage of the low bids cost. With that, I'll ask a question. All in favor, say yes.
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 Opposed? Motion passes 7-0. Thank you. At this time, I'll move to public comment. Comments should be limited to 3 minutes per person. Please state your name, physical address when making public comment. Anyone wishing to address the commission at this time? Anyone wishing to address the commission at this time? You have the floor.
These are my opinions. For almost 2 years, the manager and I have discussed the intermittent flaws on Channel 21. This past weekend is far from the first time that the agenda hasn't played properly. A few months ago, the agenda from the previous meeting remained posted instead of the then current agenda. Friday, the last page of tonight's agenda failed to run long enough, whereas many pages with little wording ran for too long. So I waited through the entire cycle to catch the end. However, after screen 2, the program schedule appeared, which showed for 5 minutes. Plenty of time to have run the entire agenda and more. Then the cycle began over with total information which isn't pertinent to the city of Marquette whatsoever. A trivia quiz asked, how tall is former NFL star Too Tall Jones? 6'6", 6'7", 6'9", or 6'10"? Mr. Jones is 6'9" tall. Remember that, because this is more important to technology services than publishing your agenda. Tonight's agenda ran last and least, with the second page not running long enough on the third go-around either. You're asked again to run current agendas on a higher rotation because their posted life lasts only 4 days as compared to weeks or months on most other items. Many who turn to Channel 1 on a commission weekend are looking for the agenda. So format the station to serve your target audience. Over many months, the manager has told me he'd check into it. They've had ample time to figure it out by now. The technology services manager surely isn't someone who relies on his production, and why should he? He has full access to the agenda, and you 7 have the agenda packets delivered to your doorsteps. So nothing gets done, as is the case with slopes ordinances, public safety, and fluoride. Our engineer still awaits a letter from the health department to lower the fluoride level to the recommended 0.7 parts per million from the current 1.1, which is at the top of the current range. So we continue to drink alleged poison. The engineer said you have the authority to lower the level, yet you've made only a few short references to this issue of public health that affects every living resident. You're poisoning some of the otherwise cleanest municipal drinking water on earth. On the subject of poison, Mr. Ryan recently supported a plant that doesn't even provide our power solely for the tax revenue. He's the big motion makers who facilitates big business at almost any expense. $1 million in annual revenue is minuscule compared to the diminished experience to thousands of people who pass that horrendous eyesore each week, because the commission back then thought in the same terms as Mr. Ryan today. This archaic philosophy is flawed in terms of land use and common sense. You or anyone are urged to invest several hours of your personal time in the showing that I'm wrong, and I'll cease these general comments. This board has now heard 38 hours of me. Think of your long-term time savings and sparing yourselves the often nasty allegations.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else wishing to address the commission at this time? Anyone else wishing to address the commission at this time? Seeing none, I'll close this portion of public comment and move to comment by the city commissioners. Commissioner Coyne.
Thank you, Your Honor. I have a couple things. One, I would like to thank the Senior Center Advisory Task Force and Stan for coming this evening. And also I wonder if it would be appropriate that, since we voted to abolish that committee, to write them a letter, each individuals, and thank them for their effort, because they worked hard and long on that. So I think that's not a bad thing. And I appreciate all the discussion about the new advisory committee. I appreciate that. I have a question regarding Mr. Beauchamp's requests. I've reviewed communications and so forth, and I'm not clear. Again, we have an Arts and Culture Advisory Committee, and I am not sure what advice they gave to us regarding that in the past or in the future, or if at any time. And in the website of the performance says, they're supporting this, and I think we need to have that cleared up for the commission. Have they supported it? Where are the documents? There's issues that other members of the Arts and Culture Committee have raised that need to be answered, and it's just not something that jumps out. And also on the website, they have colored things that are in red that are signed up, and the first program that I can find on the website is in July 20-something. So the others are not, at least on the website, confirmed. So it's an issue that I think needs to be addressed, and I wonder if other commissioners in their comments might have any comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Klein. Commissioner Ryan?
I think our arts and culture person might be willing to provide an answer to your question, and I had the same question. So with the mayor's permission, Tina is sitting by the microphone.
Mm-hmm.
Director, did you want to, or could you address those questions?
Yeah, it's been a kind of a forensic process and complicated, but also in the same token very, very simple. And just to give you just a little bit of history, basically a staff member at Parks and Rec asked for liability insurance, proof of liability insurance from Music in the Park, because they assumed, since he gets promotional funds, that it was an independent program. Well, me being new, I've always just been told that this is a city program, and that was under what Mr. Beauchamp was operating as well. So then there became this question, is it, what exactly is this? And let's, look for an agreement. So he actually came to an Arts and Culture Committee, and at that time they had questions too. Is there an agreement where the minutes says this is a city program like Mr. Beauchamp states? And between meetings we uncovered a lot, and in 2009, although there was a motion not to waive fees, the city liability, he wants the city liability waived and the copyright waived, so the city would cover it. And there was a motion made, but then there was continual comments saying we should support this, and the city manager at the time, Akala and Kivala, said, let's make this easy, let's look to see how it can be connected with arts and culture. So it was a kind of a conversation, and there was no contract after that or formal agreement. Mr. Beauchamp's requesting that there is a formal agreement that the city does cover his copyright and his liability, and it continues to be operated like a city program. The Arts and Culture Committee didn't make a motion at the last meeting. They felt that many committee members felt that it was going against a city commission ruling for not waiving the fees. But they did say they supported it in spirit. So they were going off of the minutes from 2009 that said we will not waive liability or copyright, if that makes sense. I mean, it's...
So the bottom line issue is, right now, is...
Mr. Beauchamp would like for this to be a city program, to waive the liability, use the city's liability, and use our copyright so it functions as a city program.
And we assume, though, that was happening for the last several years.
Yes.
But we assumed inaccurately, is that it?
Should I read how it ended, commission notes? I think it needs just to be cleared, so either way.
I think the intent of the commission that I sat on was to allow these concerts to proceed. And the copyright issue is not something I was familiar with at that time. I am familiar with copywriting in music, and I didn't, to be honest with you, even know the city had a license that would apply.
Yeah, we have two. We have ASCAP and BMI, and it's important that, that covers city functions. And a lot of other organizations have their own independent copyright, and that's what Mr. Beauchamp is requesting, because it does cost money to have those licensing and that liability insurance.
City manager.
Thank you, Your Honor. Yeah, this was a considerable forensic process. We went back, took a look at the city records. The last vote that the city commission had on this issue was in 2009. They voted to deny the fee reductions. They voted to deny the services in lieu. They voted to deny the liability insurance. They voted to deny against the copyright. But there were a number of commissioners. Mr. Beauchamp was very resilient. He came back over the period of the next 5 months and had discussions primarily supported by Commissioner Potvin to have this reconsidered. Eventually, there was some discussion about turning it into an administrative program, and we went back and looked at all the records. We can't find any record of any agreement being reached. The issue came up again in 2010. We found a draft staff memorandum that proposed an agreement that was never signed by anybody, and since that time, he's been getting promotional relief for the program from the city's promotion fund. You'll notice again we have Music in the Park listed both for this year and next year for promotional relief. But again, typically promotional relief is for a non-city activity. We don't give ourselves promotional relief. And so what Mr. Beauchamp has been asking for is the only time that we can find a record of it having been considered by the city commission was almost 5 years ago when it was denied. And it's not come forward again. The Art and Culture Committee hasn't voted to recommend it, at least not at this time, to the city commission. And so lacking Art and Culture vote to say they recommend that the city commission does this, we'll continue to work with Mr. Beauchamp. He's, like I said, we've got promotional funding available for him. If he wants to put on the event, that's great. If he wants to make it a city program, that's a lot more problematic for us because a lot of other mechanisms have to go into place then.
Okay, it kind of surprises me because I don't recall all the history. I just recall us taking some kind of action which allowed the program to go forward. So anyway, I'll be interested in hearing what staff has to present to the commission in the future. As I said earlier, I was going to bring up the senior citizen issue, but we talked about that, and I'd like to see us go forward on that. But I do think I think we have to look at what we can do now to make some improvements to the center. When you're a senior citizen 10 years from now isn't something you're spending a lot of time thinking about. What you're thinking about is what do I have tomorrow? So, I think we have to think about that. Finally, on the lighter side, I was involved in an interesting event last week in Marquette called Dancing with the Stars. And I wouldn't mention it except for two things. Number one, it was to benefit hospice. And it was an outstanding event, and it raised a lot of money. And hospice is certainly a very essential and very important service to the people who need it. So it was good to do that. I played the role of a judge, which was pretty easy. But our chief of police was a dancer in the competition. And to me, it just says we not only have an outstanding chief of police, we've got a great guy who's willing to step forward. I would guess nobody else at this table would be willing to do that. And he did. And it just proves again he's willing to get involved to support the community, he and his wife Kay. So I want to give him my congratulations for being part of that program.
Thank you, Commissioner Ryan. Commissioner Stonehouse.
I guess we can all run down the highway of memory lane concerning the concert in the park. And I was on the commission at the time, and all I can remember was that Mr. Beauchamp had come in requesting to use the band shell without charge when it was not otherwise being used. And the number of rentals we had for the band shell were very limited. So that was the agreement I think made at the commission, was to use the band shell when not otherwise used. And I recall no other actions taken by the commission beyond, I think it was our mayor talking to the city manager who said, well, let's just make this work. And it just kind of went away from there. So I recall no other action being taken. And I think certainly it would be quite a step to decide at this point to make it an official city program with all of the incumbent liabilities there too. But obviously that becomes a decision of this commission. Summer is going to start sometime, whether or not considered that we've had in the past or the lousy weather it looks like for the coming week. But that means the issue of water safety coming up, and I encourage everybody to please be as safe as you can on the water as you enjoy it in any way you can. And remember that it's not, you really can't depend on others to keep you safe. You have to keep yourself safe. It ultimately is a personal responsibility, be you on the breakwater, the sailboat, fishing, diving, swimming, whatever. So please take that very much into mind. I'd like to compliment Commissioner Ryan too on his comments tonight on this senior center and how that could be in the future, because we really do need to look at this thing from a whole bunch of different angles. What it is, how to make it work. Maybe it's not just a great big building. Maybe it's a series of other functions that are linked. Maybe it's a hub and spoke thing. That was my invention. But some way of looking at it just not as a big structure, but rather as the quality of the services that we can provide. So again, I'm very happy to hear that and hope we can continue to do that. I also spent a little bit of time last week with, last weekend, with the folks doing the planning for 3rd Street. And that was quite a remarkable series of sessions they had. And I look forward to seeing the final report come out. That truly was community involvement. That was a consulting group that was out literally talking to every businessman on 3rd Street, and the people that are using it really pulling information instead of just waiting for somebody to come in and give them an opinion, and then a month later writing a report based on a whole bunch of disparate opinions. So this, I think, will be a report that certainly is going to be of high quality and something the city can run with. Other than that, Mr. Mayor, nothing further.
Thank you, Commissioner Stonehouse. Commissioner Benzie.
Thank you. I regret that I missed out on those planning sessions. I would have liked to be here, living very close to 3rd Street. But I did like what I read, and I look forward to that report too. I'd like to thank our committee, appointed committees, because the meeting minutes they're providing are coming to us much quicker, and it certainly helps our job as commissioners. And I'd like to thank the city manager for helping us get that going. Tonight I voted against the $5,500, adding it back to the arts and culture budget, and part of it is tied to the meeting minutes they've provided. I didn't see it voted on by the Arts and Culture Committee, and it sounded like it was coming from 1 or 2 committee members, and so I'm not sure how that kind of made it on to the budget. But I think when you listen to a lot of community members, they're very surprised that that would be part of our task, which is to pay artists. And I certainly am not opposed to paying artists, but I think we're dealing with taxpayer dollars, and it just adds a whole level of sensitivity that I think the community has a right to question that. The music in the park, this is the type of partnership that I think is ideal for the city. I'd like to see us work out something with Mr. Beauchamp. Finding people like him to do this is hard to do. He's not asking for money. He's asking for some services, which we certainly help other organizations, almost $40,000 worth this year, to put on these events. So I, too, look forward to making this happen. The Heartwood and Hiawatha Trails permit, I, too, am more of a silent sports person. However, quoting kind of what Commissioner Stonehouse said tonight at the beginning of the meeting with the budget, it's about compromise. And I think that, this property is going to be about some compromise. And just as silent sports bring thousands of dollars to our community, so do motorized sports. But I would like to emphasize in talking about this, and I believe Planning Commissioner Taylor Klipp brought it up, just the need to really get a plan for Heartwood. One of the things I've always spoke up about is that when there's no plan for a large tract of land, and I would relate this to having it be kind of a city park, things start to get put together piecemeal, and that's when there are issues. There's no long-term plan right now, and I do hope that in the strategic planning committee that this is high priority. And with that, the last thing I'd like to comment on is that I've been working with Susan Bohort on the city manager, city attorney evaluations. I have them done, as well as a city commissioner self-evaluation. So I believe our committee will meet one more time to look at these and then bring them back to our full commission for any changes, omissions, or anything like that. So I believe our committee is winding down, and I guess I look forward to getting that maybe even on the next agenda if Commissioner Stonehouse and Commissioner Snyder agree. So very successful process so far. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Benzie. Commissioner Schneider.
Cool. Thank you, Mayor. Well, a few things. I want to thank Commissioner Ryan for bringing up the issues about the music. Those were questions that I had. I was glad to have those answered. I also had heard that Dancing with the Stars has been a tremendous success. It brought in quite a bit of money for hospice, and I appreciate you taking part in that, as well as Police Chief Angeli for taking part. But I want to rise to the occasion a little bit and say, Chief, if you feel like dancing next year, I will take you on, and we'll see how that goes. Because I will step up to that challenge. I think it I think it could be a lot of fun. I also want to really extend a thank you to the staff for the budget. I know that I voted it down, but I think that the staff did a great job with it. So I hope that you understand that it's by no means a critique of your work. Also, talking about the snowmobile trail, I had briefly mentioned that I talked to the ATV club about their desired use of that area, and I've started kind of reaching out to the NTN and encouraging them to do it. And I didn't really get the chance to get into it too much, and I'm not going to go super into it here. But I don't want to discriminate against any user group, no matter how destructive we view they may be. And I think that was one of our main concerns, is that people wouldn't want it. But if we're already approving snowmobiles in that area, I think that approving some sort of summer machine use out there isn't necessarily a bad thing. And I doubt any of you were on the trails out there in 96, 2000, 2002, when the cyclists were using it, and really before NTN had built a relationship with the city. That area was, I can't say destroyed, but it was pretty heavily damaged because bicyclists were going out and using it in any way they possibly wanted, and it really did a lot of damage to the area. And I feel that by bringing the groups together, all of them, even though they seem that they have competing interests, you end up with a managed area that ends up pulling people in from being reckless. As you can see with the NTN trails now, are so much cleaner and so much nicer than they were 15 years ago. And I think that by regulating and accepting some of these user groups and encouraging the NTN to work with them as individual commissioners, I think that in the long run we could have something that's all inclusive. And then last note, just before we started, I was asked about an event last weekend. As everybody knows, I'm involved as a referee with Dead River Derby, but I was not one of the organizers, and I definitely want to extend a thank you to the women's nonprofit of Dead River Derby. They had 1,200 people show up and fill Lakeview Arena to a wild and screaming crowd. I was amazed. 90% didn't even know any rules about Derby, and they were just so absolutely excited that Derby was happening. And it was really on the backs of women who a year ago had no idea what Derby was. Didn't know how to play it. Half of them didn't know how to skate. You know, nobody expected a crowd to show up. So I really want to commend a new sport and group in our community for doing a great job. So that's it.
Thank you, Commissioner Schneider. Commissioner Nemi.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to echo Commissioner Snyder's comments on the Dead River Derby. It was great, and Marquette won. It's even nicer. I think Commissioner Stonehouse hit it on the head. That is what I recall. You know, what transpired with Music in the Park, and it was just the city manager came back to us. I don't know if it was an email or a weekly report reporting that she had worked out administratively a resolution to the issue, and hopefully we could work out some sort of resolution also to the issue to address their needs and our needs, our concerns also. Another issue, Commissioner Coyne briefly alluded to it. I did have a chance to, along with Commissioner Stonehouse, tour the waterfront with the rowing club. And they are looking for a spot from the city to perhaps put up a boathouse at some point, and it would be on the order of the soccer fields, kind of a city private partnership. And I did notice in the Harbor Advisory Committee minutes, they did have a motion to recommend to us, and hopefully that will be coming to us on an agenda sometime in the near future. I had intended to mention it at Agenda Review this Friday, and we got on other issues, and it slipped my mind. And plus, we had a full plate tonight, so that we really couldn't deal with it. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Nemi. And with this, I'll congratulate some city employees on their anniversary. Yvonne Bunsell, clerical dispatcher. On June 1st, I'll have 25 years. Scott Benzie, public works superintendent. On June 11th, we'll have 10 years. Tanya Bierman, administrative assistant at Public Works, is going to have 5 years on June 9th. And Gail Herman, social worker, will have 1 year in on June the 5th. Also, I'd like to congratulate the following city employees on being selected by Kiwanis Club of Marquette and presented with their awards by Kiwanis Club member Norm Hefke and Kiwanis Club President-elect Tim Quinnell as their Public Employees of the Year for 2013-2014 recipient is Fireman of the Year. Award is firefighter Matt Jackson. Recipient of Public Works Employee of the Year Award is Tanya Bierman, and recipient as Police Officer of the Year Award is Officer Mike Archikowski. Again, we congratulate these city employees on receiving these outstanding recognitions from the Kiwanis Club of Marquette, and would also like to thank the Kiwanis Club members for recognizing our outstanding Marquette City employees for their performances during their daily routine at work. Also, I'd like to thank the Marquette residents for utilizing the city compost site and rubbish drop-off site. The Public Works crew at the site are seeing around 200 residents signing in during the scheduled days, taking advantage of the rubbish site. And again, thank you for using this site and helping to keep the city of Marquette clean. Also, I'd like to thank City Manager, department head, staff, and city employees for producing one of the best fiscal year 2013-2014 budget, and I think it's probably one of the best I've seen ever. So congratulations to our city manager, Bill Fida, his staff, and the city employees. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to City Manager Bill Fida for city manager comment.
Thank you, Your Honor. Well, on behalf of staff, myself, city attorney, everybody else who had a chance to work with the commission this year on the budget, I want to say thanks for your support. We committed to you and that we would make this process better every year, and the feedback that you've given us has helped us achieve that goal, and we'll hope next year will be even better still. And of course, we thank the commission for approving the budget so we can move forward. We'll continue to work on all the issues that we've heard in colloquy and that we've picked up on through the course of the commission meeting this evening, and we'll be prepared to speak to them hopefully next commission meeting with proposed outcomes or success. Thank you.
Thank you, and with that, we're adjourned.